and how it all is integrated with one another. If you want to ask me any questions, please simply register with the WildEarth website, head across to the live safari page, and then post your questions there. I'm looking forward to chatting to you on my next WildEarth drive.
We have a baby pangolin, a baby pangolin. This is off the charts. This animal is about from your fingertips to your elbow. That's the total length of this animal. This is unreal. This is unreal. This is unreal. This is like now my 4th Christmas in a week. We should do this more often.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
What fascinates me most about the animal circle of life is the intricacies between the large and the very, very small. I mean, it's very easy to go out there and find the large. Once you found the large, the cascading effect down to the small absolutely fascinates me. Alertness and situation awareness is by far the #1 aspect for protecting ourselves out on safari.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth. This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on board and welcome to Pridelands Eco Training, where we found a few elephant bulls and Isılweni, the mighty tusker himself. We are very excited to have you on board, very excited to be out and about. We're probably going to spend a little bit of time with some elephants this afternoon. It is not too hot, but Tristan is out in Djuma, Fred is out in Ngala, Ross is out in andBeyond Phinda, and obviously myself with the Jan here. So we do welcome you all on board your live African safari. Hello everybody, welcome to Pridelands. Welcome out here on this afternoon safari with us, where there's one elephant and there are more to be seen. We're hopefully going to get you a nice view of Isılweni, who's just feeding in the thickets over there. My name is Steve, I'm joined by Johan on camera, and as always we are blessed and excited to have you with us. So please do jump on board, please do send through your questions using the normal channels, hashtag WildEarth on Twitter, throw it in on the YouTube chat stream. There's Isılweni on the right, you could just see his shoulder. And if you are under the age of 18, by all means get your parents and guardians to send through your questions to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. If you have not registered, please go over to the website, WildEarth website, where you can go to the safari page and you can submit your questions directly there. It is a wonderful afternoon. It is 29 degrees Celsius, 84 degrees Fahrenheit, and it is supposed to be raining. 63% chance. It's supposed to start at 2 o'clock, but we've had no rain so far. But it's okay, we will continue to broadcast. Oh, hello. A bit of dust in his nose. Oh, we're super blessed. We came up to this area called HQ, which I suppose is short for headquarters, where we park our vehicle. And we got Isılweni right there on the road with a small breeding herd and this young bull. Isılweni, everybody, if you haven't met him before, we're hoping to get a really nice view of him in a moment, but this gentleman is trying to hide him behind himself. But he's a mighty tusker, he's a beautifully big elephant, and he is very, very relaxed. Joy, as far as I'm aware, Isılweni means heaven or holy. I'm just going to go back half a meter or so and just stay there, Johan. I'm sure we'll get a nice view of him. Half a meter or so, heaven or holy, and you do feel quite blessed when you get him in your presence. He's just behind that bush. I'll try and frame up this other bull for Isılweni to come out, but we've got to earn it this afternoon, everybody. There he is, he's behind the tree. Got to earn it this afternoon. It's so special to spend time with big bull elephants and to just go about their day. They're not too bothered by much. Even though he is in musth, he's incredibly relaxed. He knows he's the biggest fellow around, and well, he just has to walk around and everybody gives him space. You see a little bit of mud on the back there. He's done some wallowing, and you won't get to see his mighty tusks in the bushes. But that's okay. We'll see how long we can stay with him. Now, this little bull here, though, is showing us a wonderful view of himself. He's going to come and say hello. He didn't want to let Johan and I pass before when we wanted to get to HQ. We said, young sir, we need to get to work. We need to get out to broadcast wonderful images of you and your big friend. Now he realizes, okay, you guys were just coming to film us, were you? That makes sense now. So I'm just going to be quiet for a moment, allow you to listen. But while we're doing that, please send through any questions pertaining to Pridelands that you might have while we just listen to some of the sounds of the birds and maybe this elephant feeding. feeding on a wide variety of wildflowers and forbs, and a little creeper vine there. Okay, well, we're having a bit of cloudy conditions today. It's supposed to be raining, but let's go see what's happening across the rest of the properties.
Good afternoon and welcome to andBeyond in Ngala, where it's a nice warm afternoon. We've had some clouds building up and we're currently looking at a fish eagle that we actually saw whilst driving in the riverbed. It actually flew past us and luckily for us it landed in a nice open tree. I believe that this is potentially one of a breeding pair that we have here in the riverbed, and potentially it could be that the nest is just a little bit further down, but really nice to see this. I haven't seen the second one at all. I have been hearing some other ones calling, so it could be the partner of this one. Alright, well, my name's Fred, and behind the camera we've got Owen. And our plan this afternoon was actually to come towards the riverbed to our last position where we had that lioness with the 3 youngsters. We followed her tracks all the way for probably about 1.5 kilometers down the river to the point where we couldn't cross further, but where she went up the bank, and that's where they left her in the thickets there. And so our plan was to turn around and then head further up towards the bank, drive those roads and see if we can't pick up to see if they've gone further, and see if there's any other signs there. Really nice to be having this fish eagle here. Now you might be thinking, what is a fish eagle doing in an area where there's a river that doesn't have water all year round? Well, that actually isn't a big problem, because we've got other watering holes in this area that they can, get food and fish from. Oh, there he's just flown off. Got him there. But look at those beautiful whitetail and the brown and the black, and just around the corner. Oh, how fantastic was that? Right, but anyway, what I wanted to say was they actually don't only just need to feed on fish in an area like this, they're also quite good at catching other birds. And you often see when they fly, if they come across a waterhole and there's Egyptian geese and ducks and little wading birds, they all scatter in flat panic when they see an eagle like that, because they know that potentially sometimes fish eagles do try and catch them as well. All right, but I think what we'll do from here is we're going to continue further down the river and continue our search and see if we can't find any signs of that lioness. So it is one of the funnest things to be driving in the thick sand of this riverbed. There seems to be tracks of a lot of other lions as well. I think that other lioness, the sister of the one that currently has the young cubs, the one that's denning, she actually moved past the river as well. So I'm actually wondering if she isn't denning close to the initial spot where the other lioness was. All right, hang on. Some Natal spurfowl running on the road. Up, and that's them. So Lisa was asking about how big is a fish eagle's wingspan. I'm actually not 100% sure, I'll have to double check, but it's close to just under 1.5 meters, I'd guess. It is quite a big bird. Beautiful big marula tree, but it doesn't have leaves at the moment. You can see the elephants have actually ring-barked it. All right, seems like... Well, Tim, my favorite bird is actually a martial eagle. I think just since I was a young kid, for me, they just resembled like the king of eagle. The beautiful brown head and the white chest with the brown little spots. And in an area like this, when we do find martial eagles, often their favorite prey source here is monitor lizards. They seem to really like those ones. But they are incredibly powerful eagles, and they can very easily catch even something as the size of a small impala. Well, we're going to continue following this road next to the riverbed to see if we can find any tracks or signs of that lioness.
Just look at that. It is absolutely incredible. And as far as I can see, that all falls within the reserve. So it is a vast landscape, but we are gifted with these incredible things, you know, the wildcats, the aardvark, you name it. It just keeps on delivering. It's just such an incredible privilege to be out here.
And when you think it could not get better, Mother Nature says, hold on tight.
Oh my word, that is gorgeous. We are cooking on gas this afternoon.
Have a look at what we've got. Look at how this is the best day of my gutting career so far.
We have a baby pangolin, a baby pangolin. We're just gonna go very quietly, very quietly. There's your aardvark. And for those of you who've never seen one, this is one of the big safari specials on any reserve.
I'm just holding my cap because otherwise it's going to blow away, and with this storm coming towards us.
Absolutely beautiful to be able to see water flowing in this volume in the Kalahari. Oh, look at that. You can see the structural component of these flowers. It is perfect. Such a treat to be in and amongst these incredible insects. How lucky are we? You can see how close they are to the vehicle. Very curious.
Oh, you can do it! There we go. We made it over. Whew. But look at that view. That's absolutely stunning.
You can see how they're going into stalking mode. Okay, there we go. This one female is gonna walk straight past the car now. Absolutely stunning. Look at that. I mean, do we just not have the best jobs in the world? That was epic.
Alright, and welcome back to andBeyond Ngala. And we're still driving next to the riverbed, and we managed to find, looks like tracks of one elephant bull on the road heading in that direction. So it might be quite nice to come across him. But if it happened that him and that lioness were to join up, most likely she'd probably hear him or see him before he notices them, and she'll move the youngsters away. Because if an elephant like that would see a lion or smell them, they'd chase them. Because they do perceive lions as a predator or as an enemy, really. Even though here in this area, I don't know of any records of lions killing elephant, but lions up in different parts of Botswana and the Savuti area are actually known for killing elephant. They've specialized in killing elephant. And I think it's for that reason, because of the potential that elephants, when they see lions, they try and chase them away. They don't like lions at all. And I'm actually getting a whiff of an elephant bull and musth. It's a very acidic smell, which potentially would be then this bull as he was walking on, because when they are on musth, they constantly drip urine, and it's very, very strong smelling. And that's most likely what we are smelling. But our thinking is still to head towards where that lioness's old den site was, because she potentially was heading in that direction. And so we just want to see maybe if she hadn't gone back to that familiar area. Oh, there they are. There's the whole pride. No ways. How's the view? No ways. Eight of them. How's that bush? Jeez, this is absolutely fantastic. Looks like I can see 8 lions from here. And this is the Birmingham Pride. These are some of the individuals that we saw this morning. And they definitely have moved from where we had them this morning. And like I was saying earlier this morning, with it being such nice overcast weather, it is nice and cool. And I predicted that potentially if they wanted to move, they might take the opportunity because it wasn't that hot. And it looks like they have done exactly that. You can see the young white male just lifting his head there. Very nice in the open. You can see his mane starting to grow very nicely. And all the other ones are still passed out completely. You see the young male lion, the older one at the back there, he's passed out flat on his back. The one next to him also legs in the air. But judging by the size of their bellies, I don't think that they have eaten. Like I said this morning, where they were, it looked, well, we could at least hear impalas alarming, that maybe the impalas had seen them. But it doesn't look like they've managed to kill something. If they did, they probably wouldn't have moved off. But then again, also, an impala between 8 mouths wouldn't really even make a dent in their stomachs. But if it was something that they'd eaten and it was a big kill, they probably would be close to the carcass, and you would clearly see those stomachs would be full and round, and the breathing wouldn't be as relaxed as it is now. It would be very, very heavy breathing because of that full stomach that's pushing on their diaphragm. But actually, what a superb setting, having the Pride on the river. That is absolutely lovely. I must say, for me, it's the first time that I've seen these lions next to the flowing Timbavati River. So it's quite nice that you can still have first experiences essentially every single day. You might see something new, even if it's just a different combination of animals in the same place. It actually changes all the time. I don't know if you can see, there's some pied kingfishers as well. just in front of the lines, both of them actually dipped down. That's also the first time I've seen pied kingfishers in the Timbavati River, because mainly those kingfishers are in areas where there's permanent water sources, and particularly they specialize in catching fish. Where the other kingfishers we get here, the woodlands and the brown hooded kingfisher, for instance, they mainly feed off insects. But I think what's happening with this river flowing so nicely, and some from the water coming further upriver, the little fishes that have been coming down, we actually have seen some little fish, tiny fish, maybe about 2 centimeters in size, coming through down the river. And I think that is 100% what those pied kingfishers were diving into the water for. But this is such a pretty picture. We are not going to go anywhere. We'll stay here for a little bit to see what they get up to. In the meantime, we are going to send you off to Steve at Pridelands.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, we tried to keep up with the big fellow, and he decided to cross into Jajani to the north. He definitely on the trail of a female. We saw him with that female the other day, and he's definitely showing interest in her. She must be in estrus. Is that time of year when elephant cows, for the most part, come into estrus. And she has got somewhere around a 3-year-old to 4-year-old calf with her, so it's probably about the right sort of time. But no other big female herd with her. It's her and her calf, and then a few sort of males, all probably vying for the attention, but no one will step in to take over. But he moves as she moves, so it's very interesting to watch. But we've just come here to stop on the open clearing called Impala Flats or Impala Plains to have a look at some impala, of course, and then to also show you in the distance what is definitely the makings of a big storm building. You'll be able to see build-up of cloud. Doesn't look too ominous from this distance, but it's definitely building. And it's definitely going to rain somewhere. But I'm very interested to know from the other properties. I've posed a question a couple of times in the last week where their impala rams are with regard to the rutting season. We've seen in the last week a complete change from mixed herds to bachelor herds, and males even starting to hang out on their own. A little bit of pushing and shoving. A couple of males already establishing small little territories or leks, and then the isolation of different age groups of males, very, very obvious. Already the element of herding taking place in some of the males as they try to keep females within their chosen spot. But some of these fellows, not him, he's not quite there yet, but a couple of these fellows are in prime condition and prime candidates for the imminent rut. And it is a very interesting sort of gamble that some of these males take. Some of them will jump into the sort of, oh, he is looking like he's got a bit of an injury. So maybe he was just lying down and he has got a bit of a dead leg. That happens. But he's not looking as fit as his fellows. Can you see he's got a bit of a hip sticking out there? Oh no, he's got an injured foot, everybody. He's got an injured foot, so he will not be in the race. Injury prevents individual males in both birds and mammals from acquiring the ability to breed. Birds will not even come into breeding plumage if they're not fit. He's a fine specimen. He's like, oh, thank you, Steve, thank you very much. Birds that are not fit or in good condition will not even come into breeding plumage, and males that are not able to physically compete will not obviously be able to compete. So Fred says his males have not even started. I wonder if between Djuma and Ngala, we're even seeing the isolation of the males already. The female groups being sort of herded together. So like I was saying, there's a bit of a gamble. Some of the males jump the gun a bit and they start their territorial behavior now. And in my opinion, it's a bit early because he finds himself alone and trying to fend off anybody who comes to his patch. And at the same time, he's trying to eat. And as you can see with these fellows, there's lots of them around, so there's lots of time to put your head down and eat. And that's how you build condition. You can't go to the gym every day and not eat. You have to be eating while sort of getting yourself physical. So these boys will start pushing each other, competing with each other as the testosterone levels start to increase. And the rut, which is not too far away, will commence. But I reckon any male who starts to do this or starts to demarcate a territory before middle of March into April is not going to do very well. And someone who started now already is a bit too early off the drop. It's okay. Somebody has to always be the first one. It's like that if you've ever seen long distance runners in the 10 kilometer or whatever they call it, holding in there with the pack, and you always get that one individual. Same as the Tour de France. You get a couple people that break away, and you're either incredibly fit and incredibly strong and you're able to stay ahead and win the race, and then everyone thinks you're amazing, or you get wheeled in very quickly. And in racing or in running, you get that individual who just times it perfectly, and then when the time is just right, they break away and they lead the charge. And that's essentially a nice sort of analogy of what happens in these herds. These males need to get as physically fit and strong as they can before they compete. It's a weight game. If you're not the biggest and strongest Impala, you're not going to win. When you look at sort of professional fighting these days, there's a very fine line in the weight categories, very fine line. It's a couple of kilograms, this or that. And if an Impala is able to have a few more pounds even, or a few more kilograms on a competitor, he is going to dominate. And that is why someone like Izelweni, with his 6.5 possible tons, metric tons, 13,000 pounds, has just got no competition. Mark, that's a good question. I mean, Impala lambs are born yearly, and the female only breeds probably earliest after the second year. And they can live up to 14, 15 years of age if they manage to survive in the wild. In captivity, they can probably live a little bit longer. I don't have the exact numbers with me. So after she's turned 2, maybe 3, she'll have a lamb every year. So that's a lot. It's a lot. And he's doing some rubbing there. Little glands rubbing. Watch how these boys move around, and they're all just a little bit too far from each other. You know the rut is starting when you see how these males have that little bubble around them. And after the rutting season, it takes them months to drop the testosterone out of themselves before they start grooming each other again and doing that allo grooming. But now it's all about, hey, don't step too close, don't step too close. I know how to use these horns. But it's competition, everybody. It's what drives the species forward. If these Impala were lazy and just sat around all day and didn't compete and didn't feed and didn't get strong and fit, the species wouldn't push forward, wouldn't evolve. So the term survival of the fittest is very, very, very irrelevant in this regard. And survival of the fittest, as I've discussed many times in the past, it's not just about this fellow being the biggest and strongest. He's going, excuse me? It's about their ability to successfully breed. And Impala, some people will say, haven't evolved in more than 6 million years. Because they've developed a strategy of bulk breeding. They all come into estrus at the same time. They have a very shallow period of mating, and then they drop lambs everywhere. And well, you flood the market with food, the predators aren't able to eat them all, and you have a very high success rate. If you're dropping a lamb here and a lamb there throughout the year, the predators will just pick those off very, very quickly. And so those strategies, combined with their ability to fight and all the other wonderful strategies about Impala, are very interesting to watch. Okay, very good. andBeyond Pit is out and about, and they would like to say good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to your own virtual safari at andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. We have found ourselves a beautiful European roller here on top of this small little bush on this sort of low-lying floodplain grassland, and we're just having a look at what it's doing. Look how it's cocking its head, because it only has an eye on each side of its head. When it cocks its head like that, it's actually looking down onto the ground to look for beetles or dung beetles or any kind of insect. So it's looking for food. My name's Ross, and behind the camera today is Simon, and we are coming to you live this afternoon from andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. Such a beautiful blue color. So if you have a close look at this roller's plumage, you'll see it's starting to grow very fresh patches of brilliant blue. It's kind of mottled at the moment. It's busy shedding its old plumage, and it's regrowing an entirely new, fresh set of feathers. And there's a very good reason that it's doing this, because it spent most of our summer here feeding, and you can see this beautiful, lush, open grassland where there's lots of insects, beetles, even small lizards for them to feed on. But very, very soon, this bird is going to have to make a massive migration back to southern Europe, to places around the Mediterranean, southern France, or off it goes. Southern France, Italy, and those kind of areas. So what it's doing is getting a whole set of new flight feathers for that journey. So they'll spend the whole winter there, and then they'll come back again in November. But just look at this beautiful scenery at the moment. We're sitting in this riverbed, which has recently seen quite a scourge of water come through it. It's been raining a lot here at Phinda, and the grass is lush. There's lots of mud, puddles everywhere. Animals are absolutely loving it. But our plan today is to look for cheetah. There's been a cheetah mother with a small cub that's been hanging around this area. So we're going to go off and search for her, but for now we're going to send you off to another live location. Alright, well, welcome back to andBeyond Ngala, where these lions have not moved a centimetre. Been hearing about all the weather in the other places of thunderstorms and rain, and a little bit earlier on we actually heard some thunder from here, so we do believe that the weather is definitely heading this way. You can see on the horizons there has been some cloud buildup, and we've had very high humidity for the last few days. But even now, with the sun just breaking through the clouds, if you're sitting directly in the sunlight, it is still pretty hot, at least 30 degrees Celsius. So I think that's the main reason why these lions have just been doing what lions do best during the daytime, and that is resting. And you can just imagine from their side how nice and cool that damp weather, river sand must be. It's in the shade of looks like a big jackalberry tree next to some flowing water, and they can go for a drink, but they're just having a good rest there. Just want to comment on something from this morning. There was a question from Randall, if I got it correctly, about the number of teeth that lions have, and I said I'd go do some research, and it seems to be exactly 30. So that was quite interesting. There's a nice little stretch there from that young white male. Sarah's asking how many cubs will a lioness have in her lifetime. That obviously will vary between lioness to lioness. On average, because they can have easily up to 4 cubs. Sometimes we've seen 5. I've read that they can have up to 6. I've never seen 6 in a litter, but that is exceptionally high. On average, it's 2 to 3. And then from there, a lioness will only have cubs at intervals of roughly every 2 years or so. So you can almost work it out, depending on how long a lioness lives. She'll have a couple of litters in her lifetime. So Lindy Lou is asking if the lionesses will only have one mate during the mating season. And that also varies. But with a pride like this, for instance, if you have a coalition of male lions, either, let's say in this case where we've got 2 dominant males in this pride, when any of the females go in estrus, all the males in that coalition will, sorry, I'm just wishing there's a Franklin walking right up to those lions. I tell you, if one of those lions just flinches, that bird's going to get a heart attack. You can see those beautiful red legs. It's a Natal spur fowl, actually, so Franklin's an old name. Beautiful Natal spur fowl. I haven't been looking back at the lions at all, really. And there he goes off. So far, managed to survive the ordeal. Just back to the question of the mating lionesses. So yes, during that case, what will happen then is that the males in the coalition, they'll actually share all the females. So you'll find that all the males in that coalition will mate with that lioness if she goes into heat, and that they are the dominant ones. But then you might find in the life of that lioness, she will have potentially different males, because on average every 2 to 3 years you'll find that male lions in an area like the Greater Kruger get replaced, which is part of the natural cycle. So the actual pride, the core of the pride, are the lionesses, and it's the males that keep on being changed every few years. New males come in, they chase the other males out or kill them, and that sort of is the cycle within a pride like that. And so then during her lifetime will mate with multiple different males. I'm actually wondering if if that lioness we were looking for with the youngsters actually went past here before or after the rest of the pride was here. Did they actually meet up? And I wonder what her reaction would have been, because she's joined up with other members of the pride before, and they're getting at the stage where she might want to introduce the little ones to the pride, but maybe not just yet, so it might still be potentially another week or two. We'll just have to see, but it's going to be interesting. And I'm actually wondering if, like I said, if she's gone back to an old denning site, or maybe getting closer to an area of where her sister is currently denning. We don't know where that is, but we are hoping to see, hopefully, some good news with some new cubs soon. I actually don't know if you heard the thunder in the background. So Magic Dragon Wizard is asking about how big a lion pride can get. Also a very good question. Lion prides, I don't know what the biggest one recorded has been. To give you an example, here in Ngala, this pride we're looking at now, a few years ago, they were up to 26 or 27, and then they actually split apart. But I know I've heard of a pride in a part of Kruger years ago. It was during a massive drought they had in the early 1990s. And generally what happens when you go into a big drought, predators do extremely well, especially lions as well, because there's just abundance of food for them, and the more food there is, the more successful the pride, the less pressure there is on them and from other lions, and then they can really increase. And at that stage there was a pride that went, I believe it was far over 30. So I wouldn't be surprised if a lion pride can grow that size. All right, well, with these lions not seem to be doing too much, we actually might leave them in a little bit, just to continue further down the river and see if we can't find any signs of that lioness. See what else we can get, maybe along the river going for a drink, and then potentially what we'll do is later in the afternoon come back to this area when it starts to cool down a little bit, and see maybe if these lions get a little bit more active. But in the meantime, we're going to send you over to Phinda. Welcome everyone. We have just come across this dead wildebeest calf lying here out in the middle of these open plains, and it looks like it's been fed on, and we're assuming by vultures, and there's quite a few vultures soaring in the sky above us at the moment. So we think what may have happened is while we were coming over the hill, these vultures had flown up from the carcass and they're waiting to settle down, and hopefully when they feel relaxed enough they'll come and resume feeding on this carcass. So we're going to stay here for a little bit. But it's interesting because there seems to be quite a lot of meat still on this carcass, or it hasn't been torn apart like one would expect if it was killed by lions. Hasn't been fed on, looks like, by any other predator. So I'm assuming that this carcass, or this little calf, was killed, or not killed, died of other causes. Maybe it could have broken its leg, couldn't keep up with its herd, and they had to leave it. Maybe it could have been struck by lightning. We had a big electrical storm here the other night, and animals in these open areas sometimes do get hit by lightning and die. But I guess we will never really know what happened, but it is serving a purpose as food to some of the scavengers around this area. And so now there's directly above us vultures circling, and that's actually a really good thing for us, because their circling ahead will sort of signal to other scavengers and predators, even predators that don't usually scavenge, like leopards or lions. They'll see those vultures and they'll know that there's probably a good chance that there's some dead animal underneath them, and it'll probably attract a few of them. And I won't be surprised tonight if we see some jackal, hyena activity around this carcass. But for now, nothing bigger than Vulture has seemed to find it. And from here we've just got this beautiful view over the plains. So Charles, you've asked how often does a natural death occur in the wild, or to animals that live in the wild. And Charles, it happens pretty often. I mean, the wild is quite a difficult place to survive. And it's kind of difficult to define what a natural death is, because animals die out here in many, many ways. Obviously, some are killed by predators, but in times of drought, they die of thirst. They can also die of lack of food, so starvation. They can die of an injury. They can die of disease. And so it happens actually very often. And that's why there are predators and animals, many, many different animals that solely have evolved to scavenge on dead meat. And you can imagine, even with extreme weather conditions like storms, animals can get stuck in mud and die like that. I've seen a video of a giraffe that got stuck in mud and couldn't extract itself, and it just died of starvation. Animals, especially young animals, when they are young and still finding their feet, like this wildebeest, I'm sure a very good chance that it broke its leg while it was running around, maybe running away from something that gave it a fright. And when it can't follow its herd, can't keep up with its mother, sometimes she has no choice but to leave it, because she needs to survive herself. So many, many ways that animals can meet their end out here. But what a beautiful day. So we are going to probably give this carcass a bit of space so that we don't chase the vultures away or make them feel like they are, or that we're too close for them to return to it. And we're going to continue to search for a cheetah and her young cub. For now, we're going to send you off to another live location.
Imagine having your own secluded African bush home where you and your friends can enjoy the ultimate safari experience. If you sign up to be a WildEarth explorer, this could become a reality. Tumbeta House is located in the heart of Djuma Private Game Reserve, the home of WildEarth. You could win a chance to stay at this intimate wilderness retreat, offering you the rare and highly sought-after privilege of your own home in the bush. The prize includes 3 nights for 6 people and includes daily game drives, a chance to see the WildEarth camp, and have dinner with one of our guides. Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer before the end of February 2021, and you could be heading to Djuma, the place that we call home. Available dates are limited, so terms and conditions apply.
Sometimes love wants to make you sing. And sometimes love wants to make you bow and fan your wings to your bow. For the southern yellow-billed hornbill, these are signs that love is in the air. These birds are destined for a season of monogamy at least. Breeding pairs are in it for the survival of their chicks. But before love commences, the male needs to woo his valentine with food in the form of nuptial gifts.
My name is Ross, and I'm a field guide at andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on WildEarth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
Guys, have a look at what we've got. This is better than my birthday. Look at that. This is the first time that I ever see cubs this small. This is so special. This has officially just become my best sighting of all times.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
Welcome back to Pridelands, everybody. We've got the famous four-horned canoe. The blue wildebeest out here in the open. We've got some impalas as well as some zebras, nice and relaxed here in the open. And what I want to try to get for you is the baboons are nearby, and they are so relaxed. It's quite special, actually. We've got apart from these beautiful wildebeest in the open, hidden behind some foxglove. In a moment, here we go, he's coming out. This baboon is trying to climb the tree. Let's have a look how good he does it. Very relaxed. The Chacma baboon. Most likely the same troop we saw here the other day. You can see that there's some grass growing out of that cavity. The baboons obviously got access to it. I mean, they are known for raiding nests as well. They could take the chicks of birds. They could take eggs. Oh, he's got a nice spot there. You just see your friend there, can't you? That's exactly how I'd sit in that tree. I might need a bigger sort of fork, but that's exactly how I'd sit. As a snack. The male wildebeest to the side of us, it's just realized that we're here. We're not going to go to him. We're going to stay at the baboon because we'll get them again if we need to, but he's been so interested in the female. The male wildebeest come into their sort of breeding rut towards the end of the rainy season. A very nice turnaround. The females breed right at the beginning, and those that haven't bred will come into a rut again, or the male will come into a rut and mate with females towards the end of that season. So he's able to get very fit and strong, and they breed at a time when conditions are optimum. Very nice turnaround time. That's why the wildebeest are able to grow in their numbers quite quickly. This baboon's not fussed at all about that. He's just watching the world go by. Oops, he's going to go up. I don't know if he knows that this is a knobthorn. He probably does. He's going to know soon enough. Susan, definitely not alpha females, so there probably would be some ranking among the females, but they're a very specialized society called oligarchy. So a group of boys, a group of big dominant males. excuse me. Excuse me. A group of dominant males, anywhere from 2 to probably 4, 5. I've never really seen more than 3 or... But as the troop gets bigger, they get a bigger gang. And those males are very important for the troop. They protect them, they lead them, they guide them. Protect them against other baboons, they protect them against predators. And it's not uncommon for male baboons to gang up on leopards. The beginning of my stint in Djuma, just down in January, my first drive, we missed it though, but Paul and I were down by Djuma Dam, and there was a young male leopard. I didn't know who he was. He was on the dam wall, and this big male baboon just came running down. The grass was long, so he was running on his back legs, and he was told that leopard, I am going to sort you out. And well, the entire troop was watching him from Vulture Lodge, watching him go, and you know what it's like in human society. We watch our champions run forward into the battlefield and we cheer them. Oh, what's going on, Impala? What have you seen? There's Impala's alarm calling. The baboons haven't noticed anything. They climb quite early. I mean, first of all, they hang onto mum's breast and to her tummy from the first day. And then after about a month or so, they can start riding her back, leaning back on the tail quite comfortably. And these impalas are just a bit jumpier. The baboons aren't responding. And they're very agile climbers from an early age. Their hands are quite strong. But when they're really, really small, they don't leave mum. I'm not sure at what age it is that they're able to sort of start running around the tree, but they're very agile and very good at moving about, and really, really funny to spend time with baboons and see the really small ones doing their thing. Okay, I'm just going to go forward here and have a look, because these impala are not happy with something, but you would expect the baboons to have done something by now. Expect the baboons to have done something. I hope we don't lose signal. What are you guys doing? You're not very into it, are you? You find the impalas as well this time of year, when these males start ratting, that they start giving off false alarms when they're mid-battle. It kind of takes the attention away from the individual who's about to give him a hiding. He's like, hang on, there's something over there, don't hurt me. And then they run away. But that alarm call is normally quite reliable. But with baboons up in the trees all around here not responding, I'd be surprised if there is something here. They might be responding to baboons moving through the long grass there. There's the nasal alarm call. Let's just listen. Okay, now the baboon's shouting. Kind of shouting, he's doing a bit of a choking noise. Sorry about my game drive radio. Now, many of these impalas are not even bothered. The baboon made a bit of a weird noise. You see. There we go. That's exactly what's going on. These boys are getting full of it now. It is starting, everybody. It's starting. Testosterone levels are high. He's like, look over there, get your guard down. Whack. There you are. You see that thing they do with the mouth? Don't really know what it is they're doing. They're licking their lips, they're sort of stretching their jaw like a boxer would before a fight. David, well, you just heard it. That alarm call is a very important communication between them, and this communication right now is a posturing one. They basically size each other up. They're doing a lot of visual communication. There's huge amounts of visual communication in animals. The Impala ewes and the lambs that do that almost like a frog sound for communication. And those stripes on the bottom that you see are communication as well. They are follow me signs. Look at them. They're not bothered by us. You can see the dominant of the two. He wants to have a go, and the other one's saying, hey, just leave me alone. Let me hide behind this bush. The rutting is starting, everybody. You see how they look away? What's over there? And all the boys will be watching this. They'll be watching this. The strongest and biggest will start to demarcate. Bearing in mind, a lot of this is sparring. A lot of this is getting the neck strong. Technique in place. An injured animal wouldn't be able to compete. We'd quickly just have to run away and keep to the periphery. You can actually see the one on the right is noticeably bigger. So in many animals, including humans, size and posturing is a lot. A lot of what we do in life is make our, if you talk about boys, everybody, make ourselves look bigger. There's a huge gym culture out there, isn't there? There's a whole market of supplements and steroids to make people look bigger. I'm not saying everybody's trying to be violent, but people tend to leave you alone if you're bigger than them. Not always, though. So wildebeest, their number 2 communication after scenting is visual. That's why wildebeest will stand sideways to, the male will always stand sideways to rivals to show how big he is. Look how big I am. Ngala posture a lot and stand tall. Zebras are also quite large and physical. They push each other around. Sarah, yes, they are. Blue are more common than black. It's purely because the natural habitat for black wildebeest in South Africa has pretty much almost entirely been converted to agricultural land. The black wildebeest is a high-veld specialist, and the Orange Free State area up in the high-veld where you naturally would find them, they are restricted to smaller reserves. Now, the Kruger is the largest reserve in South Africa, and it was demarcated a very long time ago due to the fact that there's very poor agricultural potential here with regards to livestock farming. And so, because of all the diseases and tsetse fly and all of that. So blessed we are that there were viruses and diseases and all sorts of hindrances that prevented this area from becoming an agricultural area. But up in the Highveld, there was no such issue. And so many of those areas were transformed a long time ago. And with that was the habitat. So there are small reserves in and around those areas that still do have them. And in my opinion, they are far more aggressive of the two, the black wildebeest. And very interesting. Now, everyone, if you've never seen a black wildebeest, the blue wildebeest has got a black tail. The black wildebeest, are you ready for it? Has got a white tail. There we go. Makes a lot of sense. Wasn't me. It was a long time ago. And they were very noticeable to see when you see them. I think they're a little bit smaller, but they are high veld. We are in the low veld with our herd of wildebeest and our beautiful bachelor herd of zebra boys and our beautiful bachelor herd of male Impala. So apart from a few female wildebeest, it's all boys this afternoon.
February is the month of love, and nature is no exception. Tristan and Trishala will be igniting the flame to discuss the bonds formed in the African wild. Sign up to become an explorer and join them by the fire on Sunday, the 28th of February. WildEarth Explorers. It's in your nature.
Riverbeds are a great way to find water and look for places where elephant have excavated hollows. You can then dig into the sand, and after a couple of feet you should find damp sand, which then can be squeezed out or siphoned off for water. And with water being one of our scarcest resources, it is a good idea to conserve water where and how you can.
My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on WildEarth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
Look at this, the little one is up and about. Certainly hasn't had enough milk at this age. No amount of milk is enough. Oh, Corky. Too sweet. Oh, look at this. That is stunning.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
Hello everyone, my name is Trishala and I am a naturalist and safari guide here in Djuma Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands in South Africa. I think that the information that we provide and most importantly the questions that you ask give both you and I a really good idea of what's going on. My friend Fernando here, he's a flat-necked chameleon and I love them. They're just these gems that you manage to find in the bush.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
Right, well, we managed to find a nice troop of baboons that are busy foraging here on the banks of the river. So the river is pretty much just there. We can see the trees starting is where the bank starts. And they are moving around here, looking for some insects or some fruits. Especially in this area, there's so much vegetation for them to feed on. And I've actually even witnessed them once taking a scorpion, and with a very precision little pinch, they'll take with their fingernails, and they'll take the pincher off, and they can eat that, lift up rocks. So quite a diverse diet for them, and they do eat meat as well. On occasions, not too often, but I have seen big male baboons actually taking down baby Impala and eating that as well. Now, one of the things I was also keeping in mind is because we've moved now closer to the riverbed where we wanted to see if there's any signs of that lioness, and we didn't see any tracks further down there. But also with these baboons, often when they're feeding like that, they keep an eye out for predators. You might find one or two of them sentinels up in the tree scanning around. And if they were to see any of the predators, either a leopard or a hyena or a lion especially, then they give off a baboon bark, an alarm call. And so when you're driving around and you hear that, it actually is a good indicator that they have seen a predator. It looks like there's a vulture flying there in the background. But these ones seem to be fairly relaxed. Doesn't mean that lioness is not in the area, because from where we are here, you can't actually see the riverbed. So, only if they maybe go further down and spend some time in the trees there where they can actually see the riverbed. If if a lion walks past, so they'll definitely alarm. But if they continue feeding in the way they are feeding, then I'm pretty sure sometime this afternoon they might get close to where we left that lion pride. And if they do see them, they'll give off a few alarm calls, and they possibly would even just turn around and go into a different direction. The baboons are actually quite fascinating to watch. You know, each one's doing something different. This one's sitting there feeding, that one head down, each one doing their own little thing. In the middle, there's a few busy grooming each other. And you can see for them it's quite a relaxing thing. The one being groomed is pretty much almost falling asleep. It's so nice. And they'll look for little fleas and parasites and take it off, and then even eat some of them. And there's one further to the right whose tail is pretty much in the air, almost like it's bending down, and I think it's drinking. One of them got a fright. It could have been something there in the grass that spooked them. And if it was, for instance, a snake, they'd probably be running, but I don't know what it was. Maybe just... Yeah, if it was a snake, they wouldn't have gone any closer there. Was that? Oh, yeah. I see, look at the big teeth on that one eating there. Quite a big male. And huge yellow teeth. Actually, can't really see what he's chewing there. Trying to look with my binoculars, but that is a big male. You can see how the size of that head. All right, but we're probably going to leave this group of baboons soon and continue with our search, see what else we can find, and then we'll send you off to Phinda.
Well, just like Fred's baboon, we're also watching some animals happily eating here on the side of this grassy hill, and we're enjoying this beautiful small herd of zebra munching away on this grass. Look how these zebra are all, every now and again, shaking their heads. There must be so many flies buzzing around them. And also swishing their tails constantly to chase them away. Must be very irritating to have these biting flies constantly biting you like little pinpricks in your side all the time. And the lighting is just spectacular at the moment, because we've got these black and white zebra which are actually looking pretty clean as zebras go. Sometimes zebra can look very dusty and brown, but after the recent rains they're looking quite squeaky clean, and against this green backdrop it's a very different sort of color setting to see zebras in. And it's beautiful. Just watch how, on which part of the grass they're feeding on. They're feeding on normally the top part of the grass leaf. They're happy to feed on that sort of more fibrous part of the grass. Got a very robust digestive system, but I think earlier on the program we were discussing wildebeest and how wildebeest feed on grass as well. But these zebras and wildebeest often graze together, and what makes them be able to graze together is the fact that zebras feed on the top part of the grass, and wildebeest enjoy feeding on the small shoots closer to the ground. And in this way, they kind of work together as a team. The zebras are happy to feed on the part of the grass that the wildebeest are not so able to digest, and they open up sort of the smaller shoots on the ground for the wildebeest to have access to more easily. And the wildebeest being around helps the zebra as well, because there's more eyes to spot predators and keeps him a lot more safer. So Langa, you've asked if zebras are territorial, and they're actually not territorial. They live in herds. Well, they live in herds which we call harems. So what this means is that every herd will have a male zebra, we call a stallion, and multiple females, and they will not have a territory, so he doesn't mark his territory in a demarcated area, but they do have a home range, so they will roam within a certain broad area, but move within that area constantly wherever the food is. And this home range can be very, very big. On Phinda, zebras move huge distances to follow the rain and to follow the grass, but they don't have a set territory like some other animals do. That is, of course, referring to the plains zebra, which we get in South Africa and other parts of southern Africa. There are other species of zebra as well. In South Africa we also get the Cape Mountain zebra. There's also the Giraffe zebra, which you find more commonly, well, you find only in East Africa. So it's 3 species of zebra that you get, and only found in Africa. Look how that one's looking back at us, just giving us a last look. So Sizwe, you have asked if this young one will stay with the herd forever, and it depends. If it's a female little foal, then she will most likely stay with the same herd that she's born into. But if it was a male foal, a young stallion, he will get chased away by his father as soon as he's of sexual maturity and have to go and start his own herd. So he will recruit females one by one to form his own harem as he gets older, and as he gets older and older, more females will be added to his herd, and that's how zebra herds work. But these zebras seem to have slowly moved over the hill. You can just see one looking over to us. But we're going to follow them or maybe find something else to show you. But we're going to send you over to Ngala next, to Fred.
Alright, welcome to andBeyond Ngala. We were just going through a little drainage line. Which is quite a nice thing, because normally in the rest of the year, all these little drainage lines are not as flowing with water. But now, all of them are flowing. Every single one. They all actually head towards the Timbavati River. So just a little while ago, we actually saw some lightning in the distance. And we could feel the air pressure dropping. You could feel it getting cooler. You could almost smell it. And so I think that rain from further south is definitely heading in this direction. And I wonder how that would, been thinking what the lions would do. Most of the time when it rains, it's not too big a problem for the animals here. If it's normal rain, a soft drizzle, a lot of the animals will continue doing what they're doing, especially animals like rhino, elephant, giraffe. They really don't mind. What's interesting is hippo will sometimes leave the water earlier because they generally wait for nightfall when they leave the water to go feeding. But when it's a days like this, it's overcast, it's cool, the sun's not really shining on them, you can easily find that they'll leave the water earlier and go straight into grazing. But with those lions, same thing. A little bit of rain, I've seen lions moving around in it, staying in the open, but if it really starts coming down hard and it's windy and it's really, it's thunder, then they'll find cover. I think they reach a point where it's just not pleasant for them anymore. So you can see how a lot of these roads have almost washed away with the rain we had, so I'm just keeping my eyes on the road. Nice and bumpy, but that's what safari is all about, isn't it? And one nice thing to do when you go through a drainage line like this, always look for tracks. It looks like there was some tracks of a hyena, but not too fresh going through here. Here's a group of impalas. Nice little herd there. Alright. So what we're currently doing is we're heading further to the central parts for a little bit, to an area to see if we can't maybe find some zebra or giraffe or some wildebeest. It's been a while since we've had a buffalo herd coming through the property, but there's a couple of these areas where buffalo bulls will come and spend time, especially in these mud wallows. There's good grass for them, enough cover for them, great feeding, and like I said, they like these mud wallows to cool themselves down and just lay in there. And it's normally those single buffalo bulls, the ones that have been kicked out of the herd, that the lions, especially the pride we saw today, they prefer lions. They prefer catching buffalo. But the ones we saw, all those youngsters, just the 8 of them wouldn't be able to take down a buffalo. They'll need the rest of the pride, all the lionesses, the big male lions with them as well, because you need all the experience and the strength to take down a buffalo. All right, well, while we continue with our search, we can find, we're going to send you.
Well, welcome back. We're in the same boat as Fred, pretty much searching for anything. So we decided to come up this kopje and have a look if we can scan the plains below. But we just wanted to show you what an amazing view there is from up here. So at the moment, you're looking at the bottom tip of a mountain range, which actually extends far to the north, actually along the eastern side of the Kruger Park and the Sabi Sands and the Timbavati, where Fred is actually. So he can probably see these same mountains from where he is currently. and that's the Lubombo mountain range. And it's quite a long chain of not the highest mountains in the world, but a continuous string that ends all the way down here in Zululand. And this particular slice of it is just beautifully covered in thickets, lime green euphorbia trees we might see when the sun comes out from behind the cloud. They tend to stand out quite remarkably against the rest of the dark green. And then there's this beautiful riverbed lined with fever trees, which snakes its way towards the Indian Ocean slowly, and it just makes for such a spectacular view. And then on the other side we've also got a massive expansive view looking over the rolling grasslands, and then some more mountains in the background with the setting sun. So this mountain range is quite an important biological barrier. So there's species on this side of the mountain range which we find that are similar to the sort of low-fault species that they find at Ngala. But those species are not the same species we found on the other side. So we drive on either side of the mountain to look for different species. Now have a look at these clouds that the sun is shining through. Unbelievable. You can see they're quite low clouds. These big puffy clouds that you see are cumulostratus, and they are layered quite close to the ground, and they generally are clouds that hold rain, but there are not too many of them around. So I don't think there's much of a chance of rain today. But then you can also see those wispy clouds far to maybe the top of your screen that looks like a horse's tail. And these are much higher clouds far up in the stratosphere at a high altitude, and they're called altostratus or altocirrus rather. Alto to do with altitude, and cirrus, I'm not sure what cirrus means, but it just alto means that they're very, very high. Now we've got the sun just coming through them, so we're gonna show you this view one more time with the sun on the green horizon. Sorry, the green hillside. Look how it's starting to illuminate those bushes on the cliff. Slowly moving, light bathing the hillside. But we're going to continue scanning and looking for anything that we can find here out on the open grasslands of Phinda. But for now, we're going to send you over to Pridelands.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, we just moved away from all of our animals as we're having some blurs on the signal there. And just on the side of the road here, you can see quite an open patch of ground. It's a classic example of, sorry about the bonnet that's in the way, classic example of a seepline. But what's very interesting here on Pridelands is we don't have the same sort of indicators that we find in Djuma. The Djuma, the magic worries, are a very good indicator of seeplines, as well as the silver cluster leaves. And there's only one road that I've found so far in Pridelands that sort of has a seapline sort of tendency to it. The rest have been really positioned in a good good way. But it's very interesting that we found this one with none of the normal sort of plants that you'd expect. There is a small leadwood just here on my right-hand side, which is not generally an indicator of a sea plant, this little plant right here. It's an indicator of water, but there's a serious lack of guarries on this property. I'm worrying a little bit about the lack of magic guarries. But what is a sea plant, everybody? A sea plant is an area where water comes down the slope, generally in sandy sort of soils, and then it comes out at a layer where the clay meets the sand, and the clay holds it on the ground, and that's what leads to the sort of rutting, sort of muddy sort of patch that elephants and animals love to sort of hang out in. But they're very, very often, always, in my opinion, indicated by plant material, because the plants are there all the time. You don't have the water there all the time, but the plants are there 24/7. So it's the first sea plant activity that I've found that doesn't have even the sort of plants, the grass, the gummy grass, magic guarries, or a silver cluster leaf. So we learn and we learn. Maybe whatever guarries were here were harvested for whatever reason. I really have no idea. But interesting nonetheless, and we shall soldier on, heading slowly. Where are we heading? East. Sometimes I get confused with east and west. But there is a big storm coming in. It's quite fast though. We heard some lightning, or should I say some thunder, a little while ago. Oh, there we go. So much for me not paying attention. We've got a giant magic guarri right here that wasn't visible a moment ago, this very green one. So indeed, the magic guarris are here. I was looking everywhere except for in the right place. So there's about a handful of magic guarris that I've seen on the property. Very limited in comparison to Djuma, but you can see this one's not very big. It's very likely been chopped down before. All of these are new shoots. We talk about coppice growth or new growth. You can see it on the leaves. They're very, very bright green. Old magic guarri leaves are very, very pale in comparison. So who knows, there's possibly been some bush clearing in the past that has led to that, but we'll continue to try and investigate while we send you over to somebody else.
That white, then zoom to the giraffes.
Right, welcome back. We just decided to hop over to the other side of the mountain to show you the amazing view that's going on this side. But just look at this. This slight haze is just making this scene absolutely golden. Just golden. But also if we zoom in, there's even some animals out on this beautiful plain that we're having a look at. Look at these giraffes, and it's normally it's quite easy to get close to giraffes and we get unbelievable views of them, and even on WildEarth. But to see a giraffe from this kind of perspective, from the top of a mountain looking down in silhouette with this amazing light, it's just something out of a dream. You can see their shapes only. See how they're bending down to feed on that bush. Well, one of them is. The other one is gently moving off to the right. There's not many trees out here for them to feed on, but the few ones that there are very short, so they actually have to bend down. And, I don't know if you can see, there's some zebra to their left. Just a beautiful, beautiful late summer's day in Zululand. Yeah, and there's just a soft breeze. You can even see it blowing through some of this grass. And you can hear it up here on the top, especially on the top of this hill, where there's probably a bit of a stronger breeze than what there is at the bottom. And it's a slightly cool breeze. I was actually thinking just now, it's a bit of a chill to the air. It is starting to get towards the end of summer. And I'm sure we're in for a few more hot, sticky spells before winter comes, but winter's definitely starting to show a few signs of coming around. But at the moment it's just a pleasant, cool breeze. Ivy, I agree, it is absolutely picturesque. It's almost postcard perfect, and it's difficult to capture this in a picture, this kind of view, because it's so vast. It's almost 360 degrees. But I'm glad that you can see some of the beauty of it coming through on screen. So just coming back to Sean, I saw he had a question earlier. What grass zebra like to eat? And zebras do have a few favorite species of grass. Grasses are normally sort of divided into sweet and sour grasses. So they prefer the sweet grasses, but a particular favorite of theirs is red grass. It's a grass that lots of grazers like to eat. And then there's also another one of their favorites is Bermuda grass, and also another sweet grass. But then an interesting grass that they like to eat is a grass which is an Eragrostis species. It's called love grass, and they've got these very sort of interestingly shaped seeds which have the shape of a heart, which is why they're called love grass. But generally zebras will eat whatever grass there is, especially if they're hungry. But if they could choose, red grass is probably the favorite of all grazing species out here. So Tara, you've asked what species of giraffe are found at Phinda. And on Phinda and in southern Africa, we get the southern giraffe. It's actually not a species, it's a subspecies. And there's 6 different subspecies of giraffe. I'm going to battle to rattle them all off now. But you get the southern giraffe, the reticulated giraffe, the East African giraffe, I think the Maasai giraffe, and I'll have to get back to you on the other 2 species. But throughout the whole of South Africa and much of southern Africa, the southern giraffe is the only giraffe species which we find. Oh, sorry, there's actually 9 subspecies of giraffe. There is also the Nubian giraffe and the West African giraffe. I've just looked in my textbook. As well as the Kordofan giraffe, the Maasai giraffe, the Thornycroft's giraffe, and the Rothschild's giraffe. Right, we unfortunately going to leave this beautiful scene and go down and see if we can find some more animals on these plains. I see there's some scattered herds of zebra, giraffe, wildebeest that we're going to go and try and show you up close. But for now, we're going to link you back to Fred at Ngala.
Right. Right. We've managed to find an elephant bull, young elephant bull, in this clearing feeding on some grass. And he's actually not very far from where we had that lioness and the youngsters yesterday afternoon. So maybe just 100 or 150 meters behind him is the bushes where that lioness actually was. It's quite interesting to see how one little area can actually change over time as well. But this elephant seems to be feeding on some grasses growing there. But he's also selecting. He might select some creepers. Oh, the whole herd of Impala jumping and snorting and playing. Look how beautiful is that. Look at them jumping and pronking. That is brilliant. All right, so that's not specifically them running for any danger. And if they felt threatened, they'd have a specific alarm call and they would run away. They've just been up and down chasing each other. I think they're just enjoying this open patch and the nice cool weather. That elephant, he didn't even flinch with them running past him. And so I was actually just looking at that elephant's mouth. I think he's actually selecting different creepers and forbs that are growing in between the grass there. Elephants have got actually an incredible diverse diet, ranging from grasses to forbs to trees. They'll eat the fruits, the leaves, the flowers of trees. They'll push over trees to get to the roots. So they really have a very, very broad diet, and they select what they want to find. I mean, with that trunk, he can literally pick up a feather and he can break a big branch. He can use it as an incredible tool. I'm guessing that this elephant, he looks like he's about under 20, I'd say. Still a young elephant bull. So he left the herd he was born into a couple of years ago, and he's just been a bachelor bull ever since. And he's waiting for the years to come till he'll become mature. And then eventually, when that time comes, he'll join up again with a herd, only really to mate with females. Apart from that, he's just happy to be by himself. He might join up with other bulls every now and then, but we often find them by themselves. Those massive front legs. Yeah, there's just some thunder there in the background. I don't know if you actually heard that. There's a cool breeze blowing over us at the moment. Monkey is asking if elephant bulls are territorial. They don't have a territory specifically. They've got a big home range that they'll move in. And essentially all the elephants staying in that home range, the different bulls will know which hierarchy they fit into. And so it's essentially just the most dominant bull is the one that has the mating rights. And so with an area like this, bulls will come and often challenge each other, and then they have specific fighting, and that's how they establish who's dominant. And that all will occur within the home range where they'll be moving around in. So they don't actively defend a territory like, for instance, a male lion moving around and scraping and scent marking and protecting the boundaries of a territory. I'm just having a look now at his tail as well. Also seems like he's lost half of the hair in his tail. I've seen actually quite a few elephants with that. I often wonder what actually causes it. I wonder maybe if it is when they, I don't know if they accidentally step on it or another elephant stepped on it, or what could actually cause it for them losing all the hair there. They actually find some of the elephants with no hair at all at their tails, and some even that have actually lost their tails as well. Numerous reasons that could have caused that. Interesting also though, I mean, you can see there's a bit of flapping going on in his ears, but he's not flapping as much as you would see if this was in the middle of the day in the heat, where they actually really have to flap their ears to cool them down. Now it's just every now and then he'll be flapping those ears. Every now and then. Yes, elephants are indeed lovely animals to watch. Very, very intelligent in the way that they communicate with each other, and always fascinating to watch. There's something special about them. It's a very, very iconic animal, really. I think for me the fun thing with elephants is that they're pretty much almost always doing something when you see them, even though mostly that is feeding. But they'll either be walking, feeding, busy looking for something, going to the water, drinking, digging for water, splashing themselves with mud to cool themselves down, going for a swim. I think that's what's nice when you do find them. They're pretty much mostly moving. I once was in the heat of the day. It was around noon. It was very, very hot. I literally found just one elephant bull. He was just standing under a tree and he was sort of leaning against it and having a little bit of a rest. And that was the only time really that I've seen elephants not doing much, but most of the time they'll be moving around, busy doing something. I was once actually watching an elephant like this, because you can see when they're busy feeding, it's almost like they're not really specifically concentrating and looking, so they can quite easily get surprised. And he was standing exactly like this, and as he, pulled some grass with his trunk, you could clearly see he got a fright and he jolted back. And so eventually when we went to have a closer look, there was a python close by there, so he he obviously only saw that when he got closer, and he just got a bit of a fright and then moved off. And you see what he's doing, the way he's swishing the plants as he's pulling them out, so he's actually trying to get the sand and the dust and the ground off that, so that when he puts it into his mouth, it's pretty much just the plant material. He doesn't want to bring any of the sand or soil with that, because that'll just add to wear and tear on the molars and his teeth. But I must say, this is quite a nice picture, having him with the grass and the beautiful trees in the background. Tswalu is asking why is African elephant ears much larger than that of Asian elephants. If I remember correctly, what I've heard from that is that it has to do with the temperature regulation. So I'm actually not 100% sure if it is that we have got much more higher temperatures than they have in Asia. But it seems to be that is the theory, that when you go to areas the hotter it is in Africa, these elephants have got larger ears, because that's mainly what they use, is for them to cool themselves down. You know, flapping their ears, an elephant like that can pump, I think it's like something like 12 liters of its blood through its ears every minute. And so continually flapping it actually helps them radiate a lot of the heat from the blood in their body, and that's how they control their body temperature. And that's why you see them flapping their ears a lot more on a hot day compared to a cool one. Leslie, for most part, I would say yes. When you see elephants, they are feeding. And the reason they also have to feed so much is because they've got actually a very weak and fast digestive system. Sometimes easily 50 to 60% of the food that they eat will pass right through their system. If you go look at elephant dung, it's often got a lot of coarse material in it, whole leaves, entire fruits of marula fruits. So they actually, with that fast digestive system, they've got to sort of continuously eat to make sure that they still extract enough nutrients. The only time when you don't really see an elephant eating is either when they've decided to move towards water for a drink, or when they're actually having a rest. Apart from that, every time I see elephants, they are busy feeding, either, like I said, for grass or breaking leaves or getting any source of food, really. And they have to eat a lot of it to sustain themselves. You know, a very, very large elephant bull can eat up to 300 kilograms of plant material a day. That is a lot. Drink over 100 liters of water, so they need a lot of water and food to sustain themselves. And then in that process, they will produce easily something like 155 kilograms of dung a day. And that in itself helps with the dispersing of a lot of seeds and different plants. But it's also a food source for a lot of other animals. So many times we drive on the road and you see a pile of elephant dung. Obviously, dung beetles have sort of rolling bowls and spreading it out, but you see squirrels will go through there. I've seen so many times hornbills sitting on the road and using their beak to pick through it and sort of open it up and get the different bugs that have now moved into that. And even some animals just go and eat the food that have passed right through. All right, and maybe just one more comment on, I think it was Ross asking about the Lubombo Mountains, and if we can see it from here. So where we are in Ngala, we're actually quite far west, on the western side of the Greater Kruger National Park, where the Lubombo Mountains run on the eastern boundary of Kruger. It becomes sort of the boundary, the border between South Africa and Mozambique. So if you go further east into Kruger, you'll clearly see the mountain range there. But from where we are, it's quite flat, and if we look further to our west, the mountain range that we often see on Ngala is actually the Drakensberg mountain range. And from here, with it being so flat, the only other landscapes we see is just the undulating plains of Ngala. So at no point from here can you actually see the Lubombo Mountains. All right, we're just going to sit with this elephant for a few more minutes.
When on safari, there is nothing better than an evening spent under the stars chatting around a fire, with the sounds of the wild all around you. If you sign up to be a WildEarth explorer, you can build your own memories by joining our guides for regular fireside chats. Subscription payments can be made by PayPal, credit card, and now bank transfer. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
So in 1998, we had this idea to go and put a live web camera on a waterhole somewhere in the Sabi sands next to the Kruger National Park. And I approached just about every single landowner, and everybody thought I was completely crazy until I met Yuri and Pippa Moorman.
We thought it was definitely a fun idea and a worthwhile thing to experiment.
And it immediately became a runaway success. And it gave people all around the world the opportunity to watch a little piece of Africa day and night. Back in 1998, it was the very early stages of the internet. And all we were able to do was to get a 30-second refreshing JPEG out of that camera. But over time, what we began to do is focus more and more on trying to develop this concept of giving people the opportunity to go on safari.
Even though we live just 500 meters up this hill, we still put the camera on to see what's happening.
Absolutely, we watch it ourselves.
My name is Lauren and I'm currently working in Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I love answering your questions during the live safaris. It's my favorite part. It feels like you're on the vehicle with me and I'm able to teach you exactly what you want to know. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, you must go to the live safari page and ask your question below the live feed.
The croc is still holding another one there. It's holding from the hindquarters. I would really want the wildebeest to cross. Is it trying? The croc is holding the tail. It's holding tight. Oh no. Goodness me. Lucky, lucky wildebeest. You have another day to live.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Welcome back to Pridelands, everybody, where clouds are building in the distance. And we are going to have a moment here at the watering hole before I give you all some humble apologies and thrash myself with a branch. So indeed, as I just allow you to soak in this beautiful scene for a moment, and then you can all wonder why it is I want to thrash myself. This calmness before the storm, everyone. It's a real thing. Okay, so before we stopped in that little sea-pline depression, I pointed out a plant that I thought maybe was a magic worry, and well, to my absolute disgust, I was wrong. I apologize to all of you for feeding you false information. And I'm going to demonstrate on the dashboard what it was and what a magic worry looks like. So I saw this branch on the dashboard and I thought to myself, goodness gracious, okay, it's a magic worry with new shoots and nice new green leaves. And it was not. And then the magic worry actually looks like this. So I knew I hadn't seen one in that drainage. I think I got caught up in the moment. I'll just describe the difference between them. When we take what this is here is a red bush willow, and very easily identified as a red bush willow if you know when you're not driving and you're actually paying attention. First of all, the leaves are opposite. The arrangement is opposite. You can tell that they're the leaves by the growth point coming out there just above my thumb. very shiny leaves, and the tip of the leaf has got that nice little pig's tail spiral on it. Very shiny, very large leaves. And opposite, so, but similar to the magic worry in the opposite nature. Will that stay there? I don't think it will. Here comes the magic worry. Leaf size, very different. Look at the size difference there. The magic worry, which is also opposite. You can see the growth points just inside the bottom there. The growth points, axillary buds. Defines it as a simple leaf. But these leaves are not shiny. They're very tough and leathery. New worry leaves are a little bit shiny. Look how wavy the leaf is. How wavy it is. It's very tough, very bitter, and very recognizable. So here comes the opportunity to now thrash myself. It was coming. We have to thrash ourselves when we misbehave. I'm only joking, we don't have to thrash ourselves, but I'm very disappointed at my identification. And thank you for accepting my apology, everybody. I do really appreciate that. Let's go away from my mourning, sad face and have another look at this leopard dam watering hole. This afternoon we heard a few birds calling, but it's very still. There's a very eerie feeling about this afternoon, as if everybody knows that the heavens might unload on us shortly. So I'm not sure who mentioned it before about the Lobombos being visible from here. We're a bit too far west. You can see the Drakensberg, of course, but the Lobombos in the Kruger aren't very big. There are areas around Chacma, Ross, around Chacma that are pretty high, but you need to be very, very elevated to be able to see them. Lobombos run all the way up from the northern KZN all the way up into Zimbabwe. Up in Zimbabwe they form much larger mountain range, and down in northern KZN also much larger, but through the Kruger very, very small in places, well, in comparison to the Drakensberg and the like, but a wonderful geological feature, rhyolite, very interesting rock formation. And over coming days I've been promising to delve into some geology, so I'm going to delve into the dolerite dikes that we have here on Pridelands, and I'll link it quite nicely to the rhyolites that we find on the eastern parts of the Kruger and where they come from. But in the meantime, very good news, Tristan is out to join us and he would like to say good afternoon.
Indeed, it's a bit of a late start for us, unfortunately. The rain hit as we started moving out of camp, and so we had to return to camp, but we're back out now, and hopefully it will stay nice and dry. My name, as Steve just mentioned, is Tristan. On camera I've got David this afternoon, and we're on the western boundary of Djuma for two reasons, maybe three actually. The one reason, most important reason, is that I'm trying to see if I can find any sign of Tingana. He was seen yesterday evening, actually not afternoon, just inside Samambili around the kind of Triple M area. So I just want to scratch. You never know, maybe we get lucky and we get him. Shamungwe was also in the area, so we'll see if either one of them kind of pop out on this side for us now that the rain has moved off. There's also a large herd of buffalo, and there was reports of wild dogs in the area. So there's a lot kind of happening on this western side. It's the time of the day now where everything should be moving. The rain has just passed. It's cool, so we should be in for fairly active mobile cats particularly, but actually anything really. The ellies will also be fairly out and about now. There's no wind to speak of after the rain. What it is though is very chilly this evening. It's quite cool still, and I'm hoping that this cooler weather will mean that we're going to start to see an end of this rain, because it has been quite incessant of late. Alright, we're going to carry on slowly northwards, see if we pick up any tracks. In the meantime, send you back across to Phinda.
Well, welcome back to andBeyond Phinda, and we have just, as the sun sets, found some more giraffe, different giraffe, beautifully framed against the screen. And I love how the perspective that we have now just makes them look so small when actually they're so tall. And these giraffe have found a sort of more wooded area for them to feed in, a lot more trees amongst this beautiful grassland. At the moment the sun has just gone behind the cloud. Hopefully it comes back out and you can see them shining golden out of the green. So, I need to just correct myself about a question that we had earlier with regards to the subspecies of giraffe, because my textbook that I have here is actually quite old. There's been very recent reclassification of giraffe, actually, which is fascinating, and they've actually done away with classing them in subspecies, and they've actually found that there's enough genetic variation amongst giraffes in Africa that they've classified giraffe now into 4 distinct species of giraffe. And they are the southern giraffe, the reticulated giraffe, the northern giraffe, and the Maasai giraffe. So these giraffe are still the southern giraffe, but they are their own species, not a subspecies. And some of you may be wondering what exactly the difference is between a subspecies and a species. What it boils down to is subspecies of animals are geographically separate, that they've sort of formed their own differences within their population, but they can still reproduce viably with another subspecies. An example of this is a leopard. You get leopards in South Africa, you get leopards in Kenya, you get leopards even in India, but they are all only subspecies of each other. So if there was a leopard from South Africa had to mate with a leopard in India, they would still be able to produce viable offspring. But a species is they are more genetically different to other species. So for example, if this southern giraffe mated with a different species of giraffe, say the northern species, they may be able to produce offspring, but that offspring would not be sexually viable. In other words, that offspring would not be able to breed because of the genetic difference. So there you have it, just a quick lesson about subspecies and species. And scientists are always finding out more and more about animals that we think we know about. And an animal like a giraffe, which we see and has been studied lots before in previous decades, we're still learning more and more about them, which is just, it's unbelievably interesting. And if you think we know lots about big mammals like giraffe, but we actually don't, just imagine how little we know about some of the smaller animals like frogs. There was actually a brand new species of frog found on Phinda in 2017 called the Phinda rain frog. We thought it was just a normal bushveld rain frog, which is common throughout South Africa, but it took one man to actually think, hang on, this frog looks a little bit different, it sounds a little bit different, let's give it a quick DNA test, and it turns out that it's a completely different species. Look at these giraffe now. They seem to have had enough of feeding at that particular bush, and they're moving. So, Wild Earth lover, you've asked, have I ever seen an albino giraffe? And I've personally never seen one. I've seen giraffe that are much more light in color than others, and giraffe that are darker, and I think that's just their sort of color variation within the species. But there has been records of albino giraffe before, definitely. I have heard of albino giraffes being seen, and I have seen a picture of one that was actually found in Kenya not too long ago. And for viewers that may not know, albino animals are animals with a condition where their skin is entirely pink, their eyes are pink, and their fur is white. And there are a number of mammal species that have albinism that's been observed. And a lot of albino animals do tend to struggle in the wild because of their skin being a little bit more sensitive to the sun. And animals that may rely on camouflage to do well and survive, if they are albino, it can put them at quite a disadvantage. But I think we are probably going to drive up to that lookout point that we were at earlier, see if we can see this beautiful sunset from up there. And so while we're on our way up to that lookout point, we're going to send you off now back to Fred at Ngala.
Come here. All right. Well, we managed to find the lion pride again, and we got here just in time as I started getting up and moving down towards the river. Well, moving along the river, really. There's one digging in the sand there, and this is exactly what we were expecting. Late afternoon, it starts to cool down. We've had a few drops of rain on us already, and I think these lions have felt this is their cue to start moving, which is brilliant. I'm going to actually try and see if we can stick with them as much as we can. It is quite difficult because some of the sections of the river we can't actually drive, but we might get a few views from the bank. But that was perfect timing. Another big yawn from the young male. Generally, when you start to see lions, as they're lying down, they start yawning a second, third time. It's normally a sign that they're going to get up. See, it looks like that male is sort of almost like listening further down the river. I wonder if he's heard something. Definitely. And he is absolutely stunning. And he's still young. I mean, give him another year or two and he's going to be really impressive. He's big for his size, for his age, really. Busy grooming himself, and it's amazing to see how meticulous lions are actually about cleaning themselves, especially even just daily, not just after a kill, but they'll make sure they're groomed and licked and make sure everything on their face is cleaned and their paws. And you can just imagine how with that rough tongue, I mean, like a normal house cat's tongue is already rough, and that must be at least 10 times or even more rough than that. So it really can get all the dust and even all, dried blood, anything that's dirt really can just be licked off very easily. I don't know if you noticed when he was walking, but he still has got a bit of a limp on him, and that limp is better. It's on his back leg, and that was from fighting with one of the dominant males in this area. And the limp is a lot better from what it was almost a year ago when he had the injury around the middle of last year. Another big yawn. I think he might be thinking of getting up. If he does get up, you'll see when he walks there's a bit of a limp. But I think even though it is better, it'll probably stay like this the way it is now. I don't think it'll actually fully heal. I don't know what the extent of that injury really is, but it might be that there was some structural damage when it was bitten by one of the other males. And the reason he was in a fight was because he actually is not the offspring of the dominant males that are currently here. He's from the previous litter. And they actually haven't been able to chase him away. He just sort of stayed close, and he's just been part of the pride the whole time. And he hasn't really challenged the males that much. He just sort of kept his distance every now and then. Eventually there was that big fight, and he got his injury from there. So he's been keeping his distance from those males, but they've almost seemed to accept him, really. At least one of them, he really keeps a distance from that one. But I think for him now, with that injury, it's definitely a survival thing for him, because he can't hunt at this stage, because he can't really run. He can't even walk properly. So he is at this stage reliant on the lionesses. And so he definitely needs to stay with them if he ever wants to have a meal. We might maybe just go a little bit further along the river, see if there's another view, see where they're going. In the meantime, we're going to send you to Tristan.
Well, we've managed to find the doggies, which is good news. I don't think it's the same pack that crossed in the other area. I think that this might be the the Impala pack. I don't know why I said Talamati. I'm thinking of the Talamati lions because they've just been found. But they've come in from a different angle, so I don't think it's the same pack of dogs, which means we might potentially have two different packs in the area. Now, at the moment, I'm not 100% sure which dogs it is. They've just come over the rise trotting towards us, so I haven't been able to double check exactly who we have, but I think it is the Impala pack. If I think where the collar downloaded, which was at Chitwa this morning, it would tend to suggest that it is them. They've come up from that direction. Now, there are lots of elephants around us on our left-hand side, so I'm just waiting to see if the Ellies see them, because we know how Ellies get with wild dogs. They can often be a little bit on the sort of aggressive side to puppies. You can see how the dogs are just kind of watching carefully to make sure that they don't get themselves kind of chased by these Ellies. Let's just see. It's the right time of day to be with the dogs as well. They're such cool animals. They have this epic coat, and like I say, they're just excitement machines, particularly at this time of the day. Maybe it isn't the Impala pack. I don't see a collared individual in here. Trying to see him. There's a dog here that looks like it was part of that pack. I haven't seen the Sands pack in a while either, so I just listen to these guys. They've got such cool little squeaks when they kind of together. I'm surprised the Ellies haven't reacted, given that they're making noise. It's cool how they've all just kind of become stationary around us. At the moment, I think it's because of the Ellies more than anything. They're just kind of hanging out where we are and just watching what the Ellies are doing. Let's see if the Ellies notice them, because the Ellies are coming closer now. Problem is we're going to be in the direct firing line if the ellies do chase these guys. I don't see a single collar on these guys. Is it the sandsback? It's possible. Now the ellies have noticed the dogs are here. They're getting upset quickly now. Let's see if they're going to chase them. Mandy, so every wild dog has a different coat, much like a leopard has a spot pattern. Every dog has a coat pattern, and so the numbers of the dogs within the group, as well as the looks of each of the dogs, helps you to be able to identify the packs that you have, and so that's how you do it. Obviously, we don't see the dogs enough to know. Well, particularly the sands pack is probably, we don't see it enough individually as guides to recognize the dogs all that easily. There's certain individuals that you try and kind of look out for, that you start to understand which packs they're in. But given that there's no on any of these dogs, it can't be either the Pungwe pack or the Impala pack unless the dog with the collar just cut off before the rest of them came along. I suppose that is possible. But I don't see one. Maybe it is the sands pack. Alright, well, I'm going to just try and kind of get round and follow these guys. They're running down the road, but it's about a 400-point turn in order to follow them.
February is the month of love, and nature is no exception. Tristan and Trishala will be igniting the flame to discuss the bonds formed in the African wild. Sign up to become an explorer and join them by the fire on Sunday, the 28th of February. WildEarth Explorers. It's in your nature.
The reason why we see that wildebeest by himself is because he's a male, or a bull, as we typically would call him. And what he does is that he marks and defends an area. Essentially, he is looking for the ultimate piece of land or prime property. Needs to have good grazing, needs to have a water source close by. And not too far away from here, there's a sickle bush thicket that would provide just enough shelter from the wind and the rain.
My name is Steve, and one of my favorite things at WildEarth is getting questions from you. The type of questions that I really like are those ones that really help us to unpack and understand and really integrate the ecological knowledge and fully appreciate the importance that animals such as these Cape buffalo bring to the ecosystem. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, you're going to have to register on the website, but once registered, just head on over to the live safari page and enter your question under the live feed. Hello, Mama. Just checking us out, everybody. There's no aggression here. Very relaxed. A herd of elephants moving around your car like that. It's truly, truly magical.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
Hi, I'm Kyle, and I come to you live every day here from Tswalu Kalahari in South Africa. My favorite animal in the Kalahari has to be the aardvark. Its unique appearance, its ethology, and as well as ecology within this vast ecosystem is amazing, and something that I have been really lucky to experience on foot here at Tswalu.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
Welcome back to andBeyond Ngala, where the rain has picked up a little bit more. These lines have moved a little bit further from where we left them. And just before you joined us, you could see a few of the members and the two white ones. Watch that one chasing. Trying to, probably looks like it was in a till spur fowl. Oh wow, this is brilliant. Cool weather, lines are up, and they're actually quite playful. See him hit him in the face, wanting him to engage as well, to get up and play with. see, I think they might decide to follow the other ones further up the bank, maybe where there is some cover. So you can see that male's got a slight little bit of a limp still. It's amazing also with the light going down, and when the lions stand still, how you can see their coat just blends in completely into the sand. They're so well camouflaged, especially in this light. And look how pretty pink the clouds are. It's really now turning into a stunning afternoon, even with the rain coming through. So Jerome is asking a very good question of what influence does the rain have on their hunting? And for the most part, actually, it even can benefit them. I've seen lions hunt in quite windy weather, even when it's a little bit of rain like this, because it gives them a lot of the advantage, actually. Meaning that, if you can think you're a herd of Impala or anything really, when it's like that, it's raining, the wind's blowing, those animals struggle to hear and smell properly because of that. And so that the lions use to their advantage. Also with the wind and rain, all the plants are actually moving as well, which makes it very difficult for animals to actually spot a lion stalking through the grass, because that's the one thing that animals would specifically look for. If it's a normal day, any little bit of movement that looks suspicious, that catches their eye. But so when it's weather like this, the lions will definitely use it to their advantage. But like I said, there is normally a point where if it starts raining really, really hard, where the lions actually will rather go for cover. All right, but what a lovely way to see these lions go up the bank. For now, we're going to send you back to Tristan.
Well, it is the Mbali pack for sure. There's two dogs that I've seen now that I recognize, and the collared dog is also here. So is most definitely them. It is the most beautiful light that has all of a sudden come out after the storm. There's this crazy kind of glow in the light at the moment. It's this sort of orangey yellows with a bit of blue. Kind of looks as though we've oversaturated the oranges a little bit on the road, but that's just the light that's kind of coming down. Everybody looks like they're starting to settle a little bit. So nice to kind of just confirm. There's one dog in particular. It's got very tatty ears, and it's got a big hole on the right ear, kind of a chunk out of the right ear. That's the dog that I always look for in this particular pack. I remember when Grant sent me the IDs, he always told me to look out for that dog if the collar dog is not being visible, because it's much easier to see that particular individual. He's got quite tatty ears. You can see him in the front left there, just running along with that little chunk out of his right ear. Amazing how much distance they've covered today. If I look at where the collar download was this morning, like I said, they've moved from pretty much, not really Chitwa actually even, they came out of Londo's, from Londo's into Hofmans to Vessels, Little Gari, Chitwa, then all the way up to where we are now. We're on the corner of kind of Buffelshoek and Djuma at the moment and heading towards the gate. So they've covered a serious amount of distance today, and that's probably due to the fact that we've had the conditions that support that. It's been overcast, cloudy, but it's stormy this afternoon, so it allows dogs to be a lot more mobile than if it is a hot sunny day. But you can see that they're looking still for food. They're not exactly full. It seems like even with all that movement, they haven't actually caught much today. And I'm surprised they haven't come across too many impalas. Normally on these firebreak areas, we have quite a number of impalas at this time of the day. They like to kind of head towards these more sort of clear areas. What they are going to bump into shortly is a big herd of buffalo. We kind of drove through them just now to get to the dogs, but there's a nice big group of buffalo just ahead of us that they'll run into. if they continue to run and they don't all just lie down. Most of the dogs have kind of gone over the hill, so I'm pretty sure these guys will eventually kind of catch up and join the rest of them. You can just see the ears kind of trotting down the road. Alright, I'll sit with the dogs and see what they get up to and whether or not they actually go on the hunt again. And in the meantime, let's send you across to Steve. Well, as you know, you're having a wonderful day when you stop to film a sunset. And this happens. Here comes the little ones. Oh, here come the little ones. Sorry about my head. Truly blessed. The golden-tailed woodpecker agrees. Here comes the lone teenage bull. Always at the back. Too cool to hang out with mum and sisters. But not too cool to disappear altogether. Typical teenage boy, everybody. Don't leave me behind. Blessings to the elephant energy. Blessings to Mama Africa. Blessing to all of you on this beautiful, beautiful afternoon. While Steve is having a slow, reflective moment on Pridelands, we've also managed to slow down a little bit. The dogs seem to have settled. There's one that's kind of poked its ears up now and potentially just listening to something that maybe is off in the bush next to us here. The whole pack isn't here. A lot of them kind of went running down the road and haven't quite come back yet. So maybe there's some that's kind of flanked off and chased something, and that's what they're listening to. It could also be that it's getting to that time of the day now where it's starting to get dark. I often find when it gets to this time that the dogs slow down a little bit. Look, you see? Look. What have you guys heard? Something just moved in the right side of us. Yeah, I heard the grasses in the bush move. And you can look at how their ears are all listening.
collared dog right in front of us. The little collared female of the pack. I wonder if there's not another dog chasing something around here that they've all picked up, but something has definitely alerted these dogs to some sort of presence, whether it be a predator or potential prey item. I suspect prey item. When dogs are alerted to a predator, their whole demeanor changes and you start to hear this like little bark that comes off of them, and then they start to kind of jump up and down and try and get some sort of height to be able to see what's going on. Dog just came running past us now. So they're teeny different ages, all of them. So, it depends on which dogs you're talking about. None of them are... There's one that's a little bit older. Can you hear them as they're running through the bush here? I don't know what they've seen all of a sudden. You can see it's a complete change in their behavior. Straight away, so I'm not sure if they just spotted something that they want to chase, or if there's something else that's potentially disturbed them. Just going to try to turn around. We obviously just got to wait for a car to come round, but they've stopped now in the road in front of us here. I think we chose the easier way to turn. But just get back to you. There's varying ages throughout the pack, ranging fairly young dogs that are about 10 months old to probably the oldest dog with those tatty ears you probably find is 5, 6. I'll ask the researcher for the dogs in this area, try and find out if he has a bit more information for us as to how old the oldest dog is in the pack. A lot of the dogs within Kruger are a lot younger than everyone realizes. Even though they have a lifespan that can take them up to 12 years old, most of the dogs don't reach that. It would be very lucky for a wild dog to reach even as much as 7. The average age for the dogs here is a lot lower, so you're not seeing a huge amount. In fact, I was saying the other day it's about 5 years old, and I actually spoke to Grant and he said that the latest statistics that they have is as low as 3 years old. So when you start to work out 3 years for a wild dog as a lifespan, it's really very, very little, and that's due to many other factors. There's a lot of, particularly in an area like this, very high predation rate of wild dogs, high density of lion, hyena and leopard, all of which are very, very dangerous when it comes to a wild dog pack. Whatever it was, it can't have been too serious. Maybe it was like a little duiker or steenbok that went running away. Even sometimes a scrub hare gets these guys up and going. I'm just going to move a little bit just to give some space for another vehicle so that they can also see. At the end of the day, we try and all give each other a chance to be able to see what's going on. They're going anyway. I think they're hunting something here. That's what it looks like, is that there's something that's moving around that they're interested in from a hunting perspective, because they're going back and forth. You can see now starting to come back towards us again. So I wonder if it's maybe not, like I said, a little duiker, Impala, something like that that's moving around. If they cross the boundary, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to cross with them, just due to the fact that there's 2 cars already in Buffelshoek Hook from Djuma. So it works on a rotational basis. So if they do go that way, then unfortunately we're going to have to leave them there. It's also getting dark now. I'm not a huge fan of following wild dogs in the dark. I find that it brings unnecessary pressure on them. Even though I know we don't use spotlights, even the likes of infrared causes the dogs, to be followed by, if we're following them and off-roading and things like that and moving. Hyenas are clever animals. They often pick it up and come towards the area. Lions as well. So I just generally like to leave them as soon as the sun sets and let them go on their way. This is the dog I was talking about earlier, the one in front. It's got that big kind of notch in its left and right ear. That one there, yes, David, you can see the top right ear has got a big piece missing out of it.
See, one of the easier dogs to identify in this particular pack. Fairly easy to work out. Oh, there we go. I think once they go past us here, as much as it would be nice to follow them and keep up with them, it's gotten so dark all of a sudden that I think we're going to have to leave them. Sometimes being out here, there's an ethical standpoint to viewing of wildlife. As much as it's nice to follow animals and always be with them and spend time with them, you also got to understand that there's inherent disadvantages to us being a part of their lifestyle, which is, in the dog's case, like I say, what I was just saying, it attracts all kinds of other predators towards where they are. And that means that sometimes you just got to kind of accept that you had a brief sighting of them and they're off and kind of doing their thing, and that you enjoy it and it is what it is, and you kind of leave them and let them go from there, which is I think what we're going to do. We're just going to turn around because unfortunately that way isn't a good signal at all. So I'm going to try and just get higher, and then we'll turn off where we can in order to maybe actually let's just go. I mean, they can see fine. They're not. It's not like a leopard or a lion, but they still see okay. It's not like a leopard or a lion, but they still see okay. It's their sense of hearing, though, really, that keeps them safe, even in the dark. Is their ability to hear so well allows them to stay out of danger. Making sure that there's a little bit of a seep line here, so we're going to have to just turn around and go back to the main road. You can see the terminalias starting in front of me here. As soon as you see the terminalias, you know you're about to hit an active seep, and the active seep is not where you want to go. Also, lots of big logs that are in the grass at the moment, so I'm going to just try and rather get back onto the road, and we'll try and find another way around the dogs and to carry on the road itself, which makes it problematic because the next road away from here is quite far. It's not exactly close before we can turn this main track. Doggies, are you still in the road? They definitely are aware of something. I don't know what it is. Maybe there's some members of the pack that are still chasing things around, and that's causing other members to start getting kind of interested in hunting as well. It's just a pity where we are right now is right on the seep line. There's not really much that I could do, and we also our infrared lights on as well. Sorry, David. There's a bit of a roadblock, and I know David hasn't got his infrared lights on at the moment. Fine, I'm going to go around. Thanks, Fan. So, Finity was just being nice and letting us go past. Alright, so I'm going to just try and get past these guys and kind of get out of the way of them. Hopefully we can get round without getting ourselves stuck anywhere here.
Hi, I'm Sue. I'm from South Africa, and I'm the incredibly lucky winner of the Tswalu competition. Tswalu has so much to offer, but we're really looking forward to the game viewing options, as going out with a personal guide who has so much knowledge will just be exceptional. Motsi Lodge looks absolutely amazing, and we're so looking forward to spending time there. It really is out of this world. I only registered as an explorer towards the end of January, so when the email arrived stating that I was the winner, it took me totally by surprise. I'd just like to thank WildEarth and Tswalu for this most incredible prize. It really is a dream come true.
WildEarth explorers, it's in your nature.
Our bodies are made up of about 60% water, which means that in a very short space of time, you can dehydrate completely. A relatively efficient way of collecting water early in the morning is to take an absorbent material like a sock and to walk through the grass, absorbing the condensed dewdrops on the grass. Once the material is saturated, you can then squeeze it out into a container, or you can suck it out directly into your mouth.
Something very, very interesting. I didn't plan this, but this is a scene rarely seen. This is what we call a journey of giraffe. So beautiful.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
Looks like the rain has given us a little bit of a gap. After we've left those lines, we've decided to move a little bit further to the south. And now we're pretty much starting our night drive to see if any nocturnal animals are coming out. If it's a little windy like this and it starts to rain again, there might be less activity, but the way it is now, there's a chance of seeing animals moving. I think it wasn't enough to scare them off. And it's still nice and cool, and I think most of the animals wanting to come out at night will take advantage of it. Still see a little bit of light off just to the west of us, the last little bit of sunlight. Jerome's asking a very interesting question. He's asking which nocturnal animals are only found on Ngala. To be quite honest, I don't know if we have any ones that we just get here. Most of the ones that I can think of are ones that you'll get throughout most of the properties in the Greater Kruger, and some of them even you'll also find at Phinda. So not one in particular I can actually think of. I'll give it some thought. If one comes to mind, I'll refer back to this question. I mean, probably the rarest sighting nocturnal-wise, and one that people often want to see, is, for instance, the pangolin. But you can see pangolin up at Pridelands, up at Djuma, and now recently at Phinda as well, with a very successful conservation project that andBeyond is doing with the reintroduction of the Temix ground pangolin, which is a great success story for Phinda. You still got a little bit of water on the lens. We're just wiping the lens. There seems to be a little herd of Impala up ahead. I'm going to slowly drive past them. I don't want to just chase them off. So quite nice, watch they're all grouping together. Trying to see in the dark. I don't have the same image as you have currently, but I think I saw one ram off to the right and then just a group of females. I don't know if there's any young males in that group. But you can see he's trying to keep that little harem nice and tight together. That is true. That's the infrared light that is making it glow that much. I've just been listening into the background. There's some pill-spotted owlets that have been calling in the background as well. But it might be a little bit too far away to hear. But you can also see how their behavior changes a little bit after dark. They tend to be more nervous because they know predators move around. This is the ideal time for leopards and lions to move around. And of course predators have got the advantage. So they'll try and stick to a little bit of an open area like this where they can at least see a little bit better. I don't know how much they'll actually sleep during a night like this because they have to be ready for pretty much anything really. Because you see, whenever there's a slightest little break of a branch or something happens, one of them spooks and it's like a ripple effect and they all jump off a little bit and then they stop again and gather their thoughts. Just moving around to the back to have a look at the camera. You can actually see also all these different insects flying at night. Manda is asking how often do impalas sleep. Now for them, the most of the time when they be resting is in the heat of the day. They'll find a shady spot and that is when they be resting. But they don't full on sleep for hours on end because they're just completely exposed. So they'll choose an area where they feel safe and then they'll rest in the heat of the day, but still keeping their senses up. And then at night time, of course, they might be resting. They'll group together. You'll see them lying down. But I don't know how full they actually do sleep because I think in the back of their mind they still know that there are predators moving around. But this will probably be the time when they will be resting. But how long, I doubt. Might be just a few times during the night they'll settle down. You can see a few ones there on the edges are busy feeding. And some of the other ones' heads are up, listening and looking in all the different directions. A couple of tails shaking.
Alan, do you copy?
Looks like they're moving off. Quite a nice little trot. And the lovely thing with the infrared is that we actually can view them at night without shining a light on them. Because just to be sensitive specifically, we don't want to be shining spotlights onto diurnal animals. So we specifically only look for nocturnal animals when we shine lights at night. But I think we'll continue from here and see what else we can find. saw some more eyes shining up ahead. I don't know if it's the same group or a different group of impala. Okay. Desi's asking if there's less animal activity when it rains. That'll also depend on the amount of rain. If it's a soft drizzle and it doesn't rain too much, most of the animals actually continue with their day-to-day activity. Especially the larger animals don't really mind it at all. I mean, I think you can imagine for a lot of the herbivores that are feeding on these plants, I think for them, when the rains come, it's actually quite nice because you can imagine all the dust is being washed off. So I think for them, it's just nice and fresh. And then they'll move around feeding. So the rain is not so much a problem of what I've seen. It's more when it's really unpleasant and very, very windy, stormy weather. That seems to be the main thing that causes them to stop what they're actually doing. So one of the things I'm also looking out for now with the light is actually just the reflection of an eye, especially if a bush baby with those big round eyes. You should be able to see them moving in these trees or jumping from tree to tree. Right, Wimpy's asking, what birds of prey have I seen at night? Mainly, actually, only owls, Wimpy. The most common one I've been seeing here is the spotted eagle owl. They often come onto the roads at night. I think it might be because different, the different foods that they're looking for actually are easier to see in the open road, and also might be attracted to the heat of the road as well. And then I've seen rose eagle owl. And I once saw, this was quite interesting, was a little barred owlet that was busy eating a snake. I couldn't really see what snake it was. It was almost about maybe 20 centimeters long, tiny snake, brown in color. So I would imagine it was maybe something like a brown house snake. And then the only other birds of prey were really ones that we just come across, by chance, and those are the ones that are roosting, either the vultures or the eagles. But we particularly don't want to shine on them and disturb them, because often when they get a fright, they fly off and you've disturbed them. So we specifically don't go out looking for them, but I have come across them sleeping. But the only ones really active at night are the owls. Well, we are going to continue with our search to see what we can find. In the meantime, we are going to be sending you off to Tristan, who is also busy with a night search.
Well, while Fred is searching, so are we. We're also bumbling in the night at the moment, just trying to see if we can find anything. We're kind of driving in the area roughly where Tingana was seen yesterday. I mean, I know Tingana walks a long way, and the likelihood of him being around here is not that good, but you never know. It's worth just checking, having a little look, and just seeing if he kind of pops out for us somewhere. And if not him, there's a lot of other leopards to look for. There's Shadulu and this Chamungwe male could also pop out here somewhere. So I'm just taking a very, very slow bumble, basically from the gate onto Vulture access, which runs a little bit parallel with Triple M, and there's a path coming up here in front that a lot of the leopards like to use to move around. So you never know, maybe something kind of pops out. Also a good place to try and find an owl. There's been spotted eagle owls that have been hanging around in this area. So it's a good place just to scan for them. A lot of you also always love a good leopard update, so I might as well just tell you what's been happening this afternoon. There was that skittish male on Buffelshoek. He was just seen now. So the little small male that Lauren had live once, he was just found right now. And then the more interesting one is that Mulawati and Kuchava's son were together on a net. They were apparently lying with one another there, just chilling. Which is pretty cool to hear. It basically means that Mulawati has accepted that as his offspring. Whether or not it is his offspring is obviously something that would need to be tested to make 100% sure, but the fact that he's lying with the son and the two of them are being very relaxed next to each other would tend to suggest that they are pretty comfortable in each other's presence, and therefore that he has come across them before and sees them as offspring of his own. I want to see photos of it though first before I'm 100% on both leopard IDs, but I would imagine that the guys shouldn't get it wrong. Kuchava's boy is big now. He can't really be confused too much with Tandi's cub, but I suppose Shasha Sabui's boy could be confused with Kuchava's son, but I doubt it. I think the guys would be able to tell the difference. They see so much of Shasha that they would know exactly what he looks like, I would hope. And as for Mulawati, well, we know that poor Mulawati is... he looks like, I would hope. And as for Mulawati, well, we know that poor Mulawati, much like Djuma, got the same label. Anytime somebody saw a skittish leopard, it was Djuma. It's a little bit like that with Mulawati these days. If somebody sees a leopard they don't know and they just say it's him. But as we've seen, there's a lot of other little leopards running around, and so you can't always be sure. You need to kind of double check and make 100% certain when it comes to these cats. This is where the buffalo crossed earlier. I'm just driving slowly here just in case something makes an appearance. Oh, hello, Bronzewing Corsa. Haven't seen one of you guys in ages. Actually, not ages. I saw one the other night, but I haven't had one on camera in a long time. Nocturnal bird. A lot of you ask about, what kind of nocturnals do we get out here? And it's not always just about a leopard or a lion or, hyenas. The most fascinating for me, one of the big excitement parts of the nocturnal things is the birds. Such a diverse group of birds that comes out at night. So from these coursers to owls to nightjars, these are all fascinating birds to see, and because of how they operate at night, often less seen and more secretive. So always good to stop and appreciate the birds. I've been scanning everywhere as we drive home at night, hoping for a pennant-winged nightjar of late. I don't know why I've had this nagging scratch on the back of my head and neck saying that there's a pennant-winged nightjar on Djuma somewhere. I don't know what it is and why I've got it. It's a weird feeling that I have lately. I know one was seen here back in 2017, yeah. Kind of end of 2017, August, September, somewhere there. A pennant-winged nightjar was seen actually very close to the camp, and that's just that one sighting, and then wasn't seen again. But for some reason, I don't know why, I just keep seeing nightjars flying over and keep thinking to myself, well, maybe it's a pennant-wing, and that there is one around. So maybe we'll get lucky and get one day. They are beautiful birds as well. Long streamers that come off their wings when they're displaying. And when they fly around you, it's absolutely fascinating to see this bird in flights. That would be a really nice one, and we've never had one on. I'm afraid it's a bit of effort to actually find them. If you do want to see them though, and you are in South Africa, the best place to go and see pennant-winged nightjars, if you are unsure, is if you go up to the northern part of Kruger, to a camp called Phinda Maria. And if you stay at Phinda Maria, there's an afternoon sunset drive that you can go on, and they take you into a little drainage line, and you have your kind of sundowners in this little drainage line, and their pennant wings come out and they fly right above your head. So if you ever want to go see pennant wing nightjars, that's one of the best places to go and view them in the low veld. All right, while we bumble on and see what else is down this road, and if anything's going to pop out for us, let's send you back across to Fred and see how his bumble is going.
Right, and we're still continuing with our search. Hearing Tristan talking about pennant wing nightjar has really made me excited, because that is one bird that I yet have to see. The nightjars we get here in Ngala, mainly that we see are the fire-necked nightjars, the fiery-necked nightjar, and European nightjars. And this time, I don't know if you'll be able to see with the infrared cameras, but you might see all these different insects flying around at night. And that is actually pretty much what these nightjars are looking for when they're flying around at night. And we often see them coming on the roads, they sit on the roads. And I often wonder if, you know, if you look at the area around us, it's quite thick bush, but the roads, it's almost created a tunnel for them to fly in. So I think that's maybe why they spend more time on the roads, because it's a little bit more open for them. And they'll just be flying up and down, opening up their wide beaks, their wide mouths, and try and catch as many of these different flying insects. I think there's a lot more of these insects than we actually realize. Some branches here. So Ian's asking if nocturnal birds tend to be darker in color. Just coming to think of it now, a lot of the nocturnal birds I have been seeing actually are a little bit more darker. I don't know if that is a general fact or a rule through and through, but there might be some truth to it, because it would make sense. I mean, if you are specifically wanting to be moving around at night, you don't want to be standing out too much. But I mean, then again, if you look at something like a Verreaux's eagle owl, it has a lot of white in it and brighter colors. So I don't think it's a hard and fast fact, but definitely something that would be beneficial, because if you are moving around at night, being darker in color means that you're just pretty much hidden, and when you're moving around trying to find things, and especially food, well, I mean, you wouldn't stand out as much. Also just keeping an eye open for some flap-neck chameleons that we get here, which definitely is quite an interesting one to spot. Oh, there's a little nightjar just came into the road and flew over us. But the thing with the chameleon, you've sort of got to look for something very specifically. They almost look like a lighter colored leaf. It's almost like so it'll stand out. So you've got to look for a specific color green that's more lighter in color, and it's also a particular shape. So it's almost, if you think of like the wedge of an orange, sort of, that's more or less the shape you'd also be looking. And what these chameleons would be doing at night is they come up to the trees and the bushes, to the edges of the branches, and that's where they are staying. And they're actually doing that specifically, not there to look for food or anything, but they're doing it as a safety mechanism. It's a way for them to avoid predation, because when they go out to the edge of these flimsy branches, it is very difficult for animals to actually get to them. But you'll find Some of them actually choose little branches quite low down to the ground, so it doesn't really help them that much. And animals that would be looking for them would be things like genets specifically. Genets move around. We just got another vehicle coming here on the side. Just going to quickly pull off to the road. Good evening. Hello again. Deja vu. All right. Well, so far we're going to continue with our night drive. We're now heading back towards the river again, and we're going to be sending you off to Djuma. Fred continues with his night drive. We've been doing a bit of nocturnal birding ourselves. I'm trying to find an owl that's just flown in here. I can't see it now. Looked like maybe a little scops owl. Where have you gone, little owlet? Oh, they're so little, and if it's not facing me, I can't pick up its eyes. Near impossible to see in the dark. Somewhere in this Bermuda tree. I'm trying to see if I can see it. It landed somewhere in this section here. Maybe it popped out the back when we couldn't see with the car. Oh, that's a shame. All right, well, we'll carry on. They can be quite tricky, those smaller owls, to be able to see. The reason why I've come down this road is because I want to go and see if our helmet shrikes are there from yesterday. Those helmet shrikes were so great yesterday evening. For those of you that weren't watching yesterday evening, we had a whole row of helmet shrikes all cuddled together and fluffed up, and these mosquitoes were irritating them and they're all bobbing their little heads. It was a very, very cool sighting. So I'm going to just go past there again now and see if they're back. I don't expect them to be, because basically what happens with these guys is those were adult birds. A lot of people thought that they were chicks. They weren't chicks, they're adult birds. They just look like chicks because they're all fluffed up. But the adults just find a branch and then they cuddle up together like that to stay warm. It's quite a common thing to see with birds. It's not only them that does that. You see bee-eaters do it a lot in the Kalahari. When it gets cooler there, all the bee-eaters just come together and then they just kind of huddle up in these little long rows, like what we saw last night. It's very, very cool to see. Oh, that's a monster bark spider. David, I'm going to try and... I don't want to go off-road too much, but maybe, Dave, once you've got it, you can... There we go. It is a beast of a bark spider. That's one of the larger ones I've seen in a long time. You can see it's busy building its web right now. These guys are fascinating spiders. They are basically web builders every night. So unlike something like a golden orb web, which will build its web and will just stay there, and the web, if it gets broken, will be repaired, but otherwise it's just a kind of permanent feature. These guys often, or most of the time, will build their web in the night. So they start now, they build the whole thing, and then they sit there, they catch the food that they need to, and then in the morning they actually eat their own web back up again. And the reason why they eat it is because web or silk has protein in it, and so if they just waste the silk, then they're losing nutrients. And so you can actually see it's busy spinning right now, creating that web. How cool is that? That's very, very epic to see. David, I'm going to get us a little bit closer, because the way the web is constructed, we can actually get ourselves that we don't have to push the IR as hard as we actually are right now, and as well as the longer sort of side of the lens. Just want to make sure that we don't go too close, obviously. We don't want to hit one of the anchor lines, but we should be fine because it's running across this gap, not towards where I am. David, is that better? Okay. Let me just shine on it so David can find it with the camera. There we go. I think that's a bit better, isn't it? A lot cleaner. Isn't this fascinating? You see how the back legs are working? So as the spinnerets are producing the silk,
So those back legs guide the silk in order to stick it exactly where they need it. And it's just going round and round in circles, slowly but surely manipulating the web the way that it needs to. And you see how it's using the previous bit of silk that it spun and put down as the place to walk, and then it uses its back leg slowly just to push the silk up, and round it will go until eventually it completes the entire circumference of this web and creates a really nice big sort of catching net for whatever comes through. And they like to build in a place like this, and this particular bark spider should be pretty successful in where it is right now, and that's because of the gap that it's managed to find here is large, so there's going to be a lot of passing traffic of insects, and it's not far from a road. So as something maybe like an elephant walks past, or any animal that kind of goes here, it might disturb things like little grasshoppers, moths, and they fly up and they kind of hit this big web and are immediately consumed. Fascinating creatures. So Mandla, this is a very large version of these bark spiders. So I mean, it's obviously difficult to get a sense of scale from this particular individual, but I would reckon if we had to kind of compare it without the legs, it's about the size of a 5 Rand coin. So I mean, this is sort of medium-sized coin. I've seen larger coins in the world, but it's about the biggest that you're going to get it. So what that would be in terms of the kind of diameter of a spider. I mean, how do you measure length? It's always tricky with these guys. The baby hyenas are calling from the den site. I can hear them squeaking. We're not that far away. These little high-pitched squeaks are coming from that side. But yeah, the sort of size of it, I would say, is a sort of medium-sized coin. If you're South African, you'll know what a 5 Rand coin looks like. Anywhere else in the world, not those super big coins, but sort of medium-sized ones. Almost finished now. Pretty much at the top now, just doing all the last little bits. You can see in those little areas there, just finishing that up. And then that's it, done. And then what they do is they go down, straight in towards the middle, and from there, it's time to start actually hunting and finding the food that it needs. And another spider that just came off this web, funnily enough. Part of me wants to just be patient and wait and see if something lands in the web and what it does. I've had some really cool sightings, particularly golden orb webs. If you know that there's a day where you're getting a lot of insect activity, if you sit with the golden orb webs and you just wait for them, these insects come bombing in, particularly if you've got a day where you've got a lot of biting flies, because the biting flies are often attracted towards where you are. They kind of hit the web itself, and you watch these orb webs wrap up their prey and inject them with venom. Absolutely fascinating behavior to watch as well. I find spiders, I know they creep a lot of people out, but I find them cool little creatures. They're mesmerizing in many respects in the skill that they have to build these very complicated structures that they have. Not all webs are the same, and there's a huge amount of energy that's taking place for them to be able to produce the silk and then spin the web itself to make these crazy constructs that they do. I wonder how much bigger it's going to make it. I mean, I shouldn't make it much larger from here. Oh, wise one. I do. I mean, favorite spiders maybe a push. I enjoy most spiders, but I really do like the garden orb webs. I find them to be very pretty with those kind of banded black legs and that sort of spiky abdomen. Their colors are nice on them. And then I'm a big fan of the little crab spiders as well. I like them too. They come in a few different color morphs and always kind of on little flowers and pretty little spiders to watch, and efficient too at what they do. My least favorite spider would be a sack spider. While we're on the topic, we might as well go to the opposite side of the scale. But my least favorite spider would be a sack spider. They are nasty little things and very common in this area. And I've seen a couple of friends who have been hit by sack spiders, and it's left some seriously nasty wounds where there's massive amounts of necrosis. And I remember one guy got hit on his shin, injected with venom on his shin, and he left it for too long and it went necrotic, and he eventually had to have an operation to cut away some of that dead tissue, and he wasn't able to actually drive a car for probably about 4 months because of the damage that this spider did to his shin area. They also like to target your eyelids, do sack spiders, so in your sleep it's not uncommon for people to be envenomated on the eyes, which is not a pleasant experience. It also then leads to secondary infections. You start to get a lot of styes on your eyes. Not nice at all. So sack spider is probably my least favorite of the spider world that we see here in this particular area. I've got pretty much no problem with the sort of recluses and the widows. A lot of people are fearful of them, but they're actually not too bad. And funny enough, talking about sort of spiders, Phinda actually has an amazing spider. They've got the Phinda button spider. It only occurs in that game reserve. It's not been found anywhere else, and it has the most beautiful egg cases that are like this luminescent purple. Very, very, very cool, up in the sand forest of Phinda. So that's a really nice spider to go and look for. I was at Phinda last year, and we went to go look for them. Unfortunately, we found evidence of them, but we didn't see the actual spider itself. We looked all over the place, but in fact, it was about 3-4 hours of looking, and we didn't find it. But that's all right. It was still cool to go and walk around the sand forest and bird and look for spiders while we went about it. What an epic little web that's been built here. It amazes me how fast they do it. You would think that this would take a long time to construct, but that is literally since the sun is set. This has been built. Alright, well, we'll sit with our spider a little while longer. Let's see if it's able to get a meal while we're sitting here.
February is the month of love, and nature is no exception. Tristan and Trishala will be igniting the flame to discuss the bonds formed in the African wild. Sign up to become an explorer and join them by the fire on Sunday, the 28th of February. WildEarth Explorers. It's in your nature.
Hi, my name is Tristan Dix, and I am a guide here at Djuma Private Game Reserve for WildEarth. We love connecting you to the African bush, and we always look forward to all of your questions. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, you'll need to register on the website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit a question below the live feed. Catch up with me on WildEarth.
This is a battle of two great carnivores of the African wilderness. Whew. Whoa! You don't want to be under those jaws. Definitely, this round goes to the lion. Look at that. Fantastic.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
As you can see, our spider is still busy at work. It hasn't quite finished the web just yet. There's lots of insects milling about, but none have actually hit the web itself. I wonder if maybe these are just all the sort of construction lines, and the actual sort of in-between stuff that's viscous and sticky hasn't quite been added yet, and only now is being done. Because if I look on the edge of the web, there's a lot more finer lines that are being put down. You see those there? So the big construction lines that the spider is walking on are done, and then these are the actual catching lines that are now being put in, if you want to call them catching lines. But you can see how it like stretches with the leg to just lock it in place on those construction lines, which is where the spider will actually walk. The spider won't try and walk on those viscous threads, because obviously it too, by the sheer nature of the silk that it's spinning, will get fairly sort of stuck in what it's doing. So this is just anchor or construction lines that they walk on are not as viscous at all. So if I had to walk up and hypothetically the line that is actually going across to the trees, if you touch that and you pull on it, one is it's very strong, but two, that silk is not at all sticky. I mean, you can touch it multiple times and it doesn't stick to you, but if you go and you put your hand into the web, all of that web sticks very, very easily. And that's because obviously the spider needs to move around, but also it needs to catch things. And so there has to be different types of silk that is produced by these guys in order to affect the kind of catching and safety system that they need in order to survive. Amazing though, isn't it? I just love how the back legs work. It's my favorite thing with these guys, to watch how they manipulate the web into the exact places that they want, and the speedy efficiency of how they do it. Unfortunately, we didn't quite make it to our helmet shrikes. They are a little bit further down the road, but it was just so nice to sit with our spider that we thought we'd rather just stay here. Helmet shrikes will have to wait for another day, I'm afraid. I'm pretty sure won't be there, given that those were all adults. If it was chicks, it would be a different story altogether. All right, well, it is that time to say goodnight to all of you. Hopefully you've had a wonderful afternoon with us. Hopefully you enjoyed all the sights of the South African wildernesses that are spread across this country. From all of us, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we look forward to hosting you tomorrow morning on our sunrise